Look, they said that I couldn't do it, so I went and did it. W's only, you know I've been winning. Top of the world, the globe is spinning. If you know, I've been on a what? Mission. Go. Okay, let's get it. Got a little time on my hands like a wristwatch. I don't got time for the brakes and a pit stop. Race through the gridlock, take it like Chris Rock. Right to the chin, still win. Heavy metals like Slipknot. Got the driving, I got tunnel vision. I just hit my stride the way I run the business. I've been making paper like I'm Dunder Mifflin. See the end game, I got one division. Look, I don't ever bother with a critic. Hit him with a chronicle of Riddick. Boom, bottle full of Ritalin. I hit him with a little bit of riddle me this, riddle me that. My bad, fell asleep at the
GM, thanks for joining. Drop us a GM in the chat down below. Give us some love on the space. It is linked up above. Those likes, those reposts, bookmarks are greatly appreciated. Wondering if I'm not having any audio this morning. Briggs, can you hear me okay?
Yes. Sorry, I was trying to, you caught me trying to comment in the box, but yes, I can hear you. And the music.
Ik ga het sneeuw blue en het toos wil ik white. Ik compie niet met jou, dat is zo voor mijn lijk. You do it for sure, but he left with a why. Yeah, we live where we destined to die. And you say it on me, but I'm ending a lie. I'm a lie en ik voel me net Memphis en Pai. En ik jaag op de goed in de scene. Moest eigenlijk rennen, we lopen misschien. En ik wil niet eens kijken, mijn ogen die zien. En serie niet genoeg dat ik kopen wat die doof in de beam. Hier co-star, I got 5 for my name, I got no star. Come to me just to see how my shows are. Yeah.
They said that I couldn't do it, so I went and did it. W's only, you know I've been winning. Top of the world, the globe is spinning. If you know, I've been on a what? Mission. Go. Okay, let's get it.
This episode is brought to you by DGen Network, the only community-based Web3 media network, bringing you the very best content in the NFT and cryptocurrency space. Please visit dgen.network and check out our other great shows. That's DGen, D-G-E-N .network.
Welcome to the future.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain GM. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Cap, joined by my co-host Steve. We'll have some fun today. Never any financial advice. Entertainment purposes only. Crypto is risky. NFTs are risky. It probably all goes to zero. We have no idea what we're talking about, but we'll have some fun while we do it. If you haven't done so already, please give us some love on the space. It is linked up above all the way to the right. Those likes, bookmarks, reposts are greatly appreciated. It helps with the algo tremendously, as does the chat combo down in the bottom right. Tell us what you're looking at today. If you were, I don't know, Steve. I never got into Terra Luna, so this I guess settlement or billions of dollars that I don't know how much that actually ended up making it back to the end user, but I don't think you played around in the Terra Luna streets either, did you?
I did not. So this one isn't as big to me as we go. I know we also, I mean, we got a lot going on anyway. Besides that, I mean, we got Moonbirds. We got Rig saying he's going to do. I know Rig said he wanted to jump up here this morning, so we'll get him up. Although he shows his listener for me. I heard him talking earlier. Shiva wants to give us an update on the Moonbirds and what they did as well. And so I think there's plenty of stuff. Again, we're not going to get super deep into politics because we try to stay clear of that as much as we can. Although the season makes it impossible, but probably worth discussing the fact that maybe another win for crypto coming up, which is good, regardless of how, we feel or motivations or other things that we may, quote unquote, sort of like, sketch out about certain things. The point being, we are, I think we're seeing the crypto continue to turn a corner. So that's probably what we're talking about. But yeah, no, Terra Luna, I was not deep in. So that one was definitely not my jam, not my bag. I will say this, I have disappeared from the timeline and will so for a few days because I changed my profile picture. That's always interesting to see, to go from like, you put out a tweet about a stake that gets 40,000 people looking at it. And then you put out a tweet about politics stuff, which usually actually runs pretty well. And I am sitting here staring down a 600 view thing. So the struggle is real, but we ride anyway, Cap. Curious. I don't know if you had any other random cold open material, but I'm sitting here, remembering how painful it can be to disappear completely from the algo.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I had any other nonsense to talk about this morning. I did have my first meeting at 6:30, which I'm probably not going to get into it today. We'll have a special guest in the near future. Pretty stoked about some of the builders and tools, resources they're building for those of us participants in the space. But it's not often we get a Spicy Riggs, and the people love Spicy Riggs, one of our favorite characters here on Coffee with Captain. So I think without further ado, Steve, I don't know, it may be cold open material, it may be show material for the duration. I really have no idea where it's going. I have some guesses, but I really have no idea where.
Well,
can you hear me, Steve?
Well, I can hear you now. It's so weird. It shows up Riggs as a listener, but it is letting him talk. His hand's up. I got to take a screenshot to show. His hand is up, but it shows him as a listener on the phone. So and we have Travel Swap coming up at 9, so we got a little bit of time before then. So I think we just hand it over to Spicy Riggs and we just let him cook.
Let's do it. Yeah, he shows up as, so I think we're good.
Yeah, man. So I think this is good cold open, and then we can transition. I know Sheba wanted to chat on Moonbirds a little bit, and I'm happy to share some thoughts there too. But it was weird just to mention it. I am up here as a speaker, and then I got you, Steve, inviting me to speak, which I've never had that happen. So you gotta love X and its updated spaces. But no, I don't know why. I just woke up some kind of way.
You know what? Actually, as you said that, I think probably take this wherever you'd like. But before we get too much into Web3 news, we probably should at least fly over the removal of the like visibility on the timeline. I actually think that could have maybe some unintended consequences, or maybe they're well aware of the consequences. I have some thoughts on that, but go ahead, Riggs.
Well, I mean, I'm really interested to know if it impacts Pac Moon, because I'm farming Pac Moon right now, and
it has to. Like
it has to. It absolutely has to.
Model's dead. The other thing I have concern about is the Thank Ape program that they just launched for the Bill by Ape coin. Like, I don't see how they can pull that. Like, as I'm getting super excited about this new world of SocialFi, which we need a better phrase for it than that. I think they're DOA right now until they figure out something else with the API. I think both models are broken.
Yeah, sucks. I was moving up the Pac Moon charts, man. Fucking A. You just pissed me off even further, Cap. Thank you for that. No, I mean, so here's the thing. I don't know why I woke up feeling this way. I don't even know why I care. I really don't. But for some reason I do. I am more embarrassed right now of our timeline than I have ever been since I've been in this space. And we have had some cringe fucking metas. But the writing, the absolute cucking out, in essence, for these B-list celebrities is making me, like Jesse, Mrs. Riggs last night, happened to see, I was sitting there scrolling, and she looks over, her head's like sitting there on my shoulder. She looks over and she sees Jakey with Caitlyn Jenner feeding each other French fries. And she was like, what in the world is this? And like, it just felt gross. It felt awkward. Then I kept scrolling and saw them like dancing in a car together. Like, but you could tell it was just an awkward moment. And it's like, why are we doing this? Is really a couple extra followers why we're doing this? Is it even fun? Maybe
I would push back and say they're not even gaining extra followers from it. Sorry, I got the echo. I would say they're not even gaining extra followers from it. I think they're just doing it for engagement of those that are already here. I don't know if anyone's like, I don't think they're attracting new followers, but maybe so. Maybe they're picking up a bunch of Caitlyn Jenner fans. I don't know.
Is it funny? Like, am I that
no,
old?
I don't find
old?
it humorous at all. No, I don't find it humorous or entertaining whatsoever.
I mean, it is so.
But I guess yes, I am old. Like I also don't watch Kardashians or any of the stuff that I guess there people do find entertaining. It's not my journey.
I mean, I've watched my fair share of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I mean, I have. I'm not gonna lie. I've sat there. I could probably talk several different episodes right now if we want to. Now, is that my choice of television? No. But like Steve, there's some absolute garbage reality TV that is entertaining. Absolutely entertaining. Now, it is meant to be entertaining to the masses. This is just, it's one of those things where I've been baffled watching this thing play out. Take away Iggy, right? Iggy's an incredibly attractive woman. And there's people that are going to simp over her from a standpoint of whether it's OnlyFans, whether it's here, whether it doesn't matter. That's part of it. And Iggy is doing the things.
You know what though? She's actually lapping everyone else. Like, not even her looks. Like, she's actually like, she's putting in the work. Like everyone else, like it's kind of an ick on the timeline. But I think anyone who was fudding Iggy, they probably owe her an apology.
Yeah, 100%. I've already done it. I apologized. You know, I thought it would. There's always going to be one out of a meta that ends up doing it the right way or comes in and actually proves goes against the grain. It seems to be Iggy this time. I mean, definitely wasn't Hulk Hogan. Let me tell you that. Fuck. That one was sad. I felt like he dropped a big old leg drop on me. Granted, I didn't have any money in it, unlike other people. But it's just one of those things. These main characters that we've put on pedestals here there are some, don't get me wrong, are funny. Like seeing Ansem go at it with Andrew Tate was semi-funny. Now, I will tell you, and I have not said this publicly on a space. I've said it in the war room. Watching people be polite and ultimately try to get Andrew Tate on their podcast as well has been absolutely vile to me. It's one of those, I don't care who you are. And Deez said it best yesterday. We like meme coins, but we can draw a line at the hard R type of meme coins. We like it was all about draw the line. And I think drawing a line at somebody who is charged for rape and sex trafficking, human trafficking, that's a fucking good line to draw. And we're watching people just continue to, I don't care if he wants to be paid in order to come on your podcast. You shouldn't even be asking him to come on your podcast. This is just one of the most embarrassing moments I have seen on our timeline.
So let me put a couple points in this. This is good cold open material to your point, and as we kind of talk through it, because I know don't worry, Sheba, we will get to Moonbirds before Tribal Swap. But I'll throw this in. I will say, like, number one, this is how the last cycle began. Like, we used to get excited when like we would see Roham, who's CEO of Dapper Labs, got a Bored Ape and changed his PFP, and we're like, oh my God, this is huge. And then as more celebrities going up, and it worked its way up to Steph Curry. So I think you start off sometimes with sort of the people who are, and I actually like, this is going to make me sound like totally like a wuss, but like, I don't love the term B, C, D-list celebrities. It's like someone's doing a job. And if somebody is, and I'm not saying you're doing this wrong, Riggs, because that's just the term we use, but it's like, I don't know, like I'm like a C-list, crypto Twitter member or D-list or E-list, however you want to put it. But like, I get paid. It's my job.
I'm an F-list, bro.
Yeah, we're F tiers here.
But it's like the ability to do it full time is what it is. It's like when I see reality stars on like we're watching this like really trashy reality show hosted by friggin' Nick Lachey, who's become the reality show host of Netflix right now, with me and Miss NFT Bark, and we're like, these people have a job. They show up to these things. They're at work right now, and part of their job is to figure out not just how to win the money on a show, but create a character.
I had a vision into the future. I see NFT Barks. He's dropped the NFT Bark. He's now Steve. He's got the human PFP in Steve's future. I just saw it. I had this premonition. Steve will be hosting reality shows with Nick Lachey on Netflix. This is coming soon.
Oh, I'd fucking love that. I thought you were going a different direction on a reality show. I'm like, no way, but hosting
Mint is blind. Mint is blind. Let's go.
Hell fucking yes. You're now getting me excited, Cap, for the next career. But no, I think like when you see it's funny because like my kids tune in.
I would start watching reality shows if you were the host.
Well, my kids, I'm going to say to them, they're going to be like, oh, Nick Lachey, the reality host, will be like, no, he was really successful in a boy band, like selling out arenas in the 90s and early 2000s. And they'll be like, the reality show host guy? No way. Like you always have those people who like, it's like people who don't know that John Madden was an amazing coach, right? But I think like one, the cycle does start this way sometimes. Two, I agree with you. And this is kind of part of the point I was making to your point, Riggs, the other day, where I was like, when we are like over canceling every single person in the world, like when Iggy Azalea came out, my answer was keep your guards up, keep your heads on a swivel. I'll watch. Cap, who I trust, implicitly, obviously, is one of my top collaborators of my life, that I've ever worked with, and one of my great friends. He's like, hey, pay attention. She knows what she's doing. So I didn't, flat out say like fade this, whatever. But at the same time, like you have your guard up and whatever. But the problem is we put that in the same category as Andrew Tate because the first thing everybody wants to do is cancel everybody a lot of times. And that turns it into us not knowing the difference between someone who is actually a person who probably shouldn't be, given tons of attention. And I don't see it as platforming per se, but like there's a strong difference between Iggy Azalea and Andrew Tate. We can all agree that.
Yeah, totally. And it's not platforming. Like you guys said it perfectly. And don't get me wrong. And I could say chomping at the bit, not champing, but we don't need to go there. I was chomping at the bit to come up that day on stage because he doesn't need to be platformed. Let's keep it 100. You're trying to platform yourself by interviewing him. That's what you're doing. And that's who you want to be platformed by. Those are the types of fans that you ultimately want to garner. I think people need to have a reassessment of what they ultimately want in life. Look yourself deep in the mirror. And if those are the types of followers you're looking for, I question things of who I want to be around. Who do I want to follow? And it's not about, do I lose respect for somebody? It's about who do I want to surround myself with and what type of content do I want to absorb, because you are what you absorb. And I don't want that in my life. And I know many people don't know certain stories about me and why this particular person and some of the concepts that he brings to the table and how he speaks, what he's charged for, it hits very close to home for me. That being said, I don't think I would change whether that was the situation or not. And it's just been really, really, I don't know. I've just been super embarrassed and cringe. So I've actually been.
Is there anything other than the Tate stuff that's bothering you?
Yeah, I mean, just the really trying to find, I don't know. The Caitlyn Jenner stuff yesterday was super cringe to me. Watching that and watching the date stuff and her try to teach Mark, how to throw a javelin, which I don't know. It was cringy to me. It felt gross and awkward. I'll tell you,
Is it reality TV working itself into this space? Is that part of the problem? Is we just have content creators that have run out of things to talk about?
Funny. Take Love is Blind we're talking Nick Lachey. I know you don't watch reality TV. Love is Blind, I think, is one of the most cringy type of reality TV shows that's entertaining. Literally, you have people talking to each other behind a screen and you think that they actually don't know what each other look like. And they're going to end up getting married. Like, this isn't reality TV. It's just not. It's one of those things, and it adds absolutely zero value to anything that we're doing. What are they trying to do? Pump fucking Jenner coin? Is that what that was ultimately trying to do? And if so, God bless them. But
when someone sends out a post and say we didn't do this to pump a coin, I interpret that. I translate that to we did this to pump a coin. That's word for word the translation I had on the post. We didn't do this to pump a coin.
I saw a tweet by Steve, and this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I saw Steve posted a comment to a Scheffler tweet about the Jets, and it was the coach of the Jets was saying we don't. We're all in sync. We have no issues, and everybody on the team or Aaron Rodgers has no issues with his teammates. And Steve was like, wrote the tweet and says, translation, we do have issues, and Aaron Rodgers absolutely has issues with his teammates, right?
That tweet cooked, by the way. That tweet absolutely cooked.
It was a good one. It was a fucking good response because that's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. And it's just one of those things. Why can't we just keep it 100? Why can't we not just keep it real? Fuck. It's been so frustrating. I also will say I have been more turned off recently by a founder in this space who is going down the celebrity route versus running a project.
Oh, you got to name names. Bro,
you know who I'm talking about.
I really have no clue.
Frank D-Gods?
Oh, Sheba comes in with the heat. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. Do you want to run a community?
D-God's under 1 ETH, by the way. Maybe that's part of the plan.
I wonder
Well,
why.
send it lower, right? Send it lower. And I don't know. It's just been one of those things where I get you don't have control over your floor price. I get you gotta go down certain routes and pick a vision and run towards it. But it really feels he's spending more time chasing these celebrities as well and meme coining than running his project. And again, that could be incredibly unfair of me.
I'm going to straw man it. I'm not going to defend, but I'll straw man the other side for the community, the club that they're building. Maybe this is the best strategy they can. I mean, the guy lives in LA. Like, maybe lean into this meta. If you got other D-Gods out there that are interviewing Caitlyn Jenner, well, maybe build a community that's full of these D and C and F tier celebrities.
I think I can give a little bit of like perspective from at least where I sit on this one. And then I want to go to Sheba because I know he had his hand up early and he probably has thoughts on this, and we'll go to Outer too as well. And Rig, stick obviously, because I want to get your response to this stuff because I think it's a good topic. But I want to put it this way. Like, let me like actually kind of give a similar sort of, attempt at the other side on this one. I would say that number one, a lot of the people you're mentioning are sort of younger, coming up in their career and see career opportunity. And these celebrities have a mutual benefit with these people. Now, we can discuss whether it's a good or a bad thing, but these celebrities see an opportunity to work with people who have influence to help their coin and help their brand. And with the people, they see the opportunity. I mean, you nailed it. You said it yourself. These people want to platform themselves. What they are doing is they're getting themselves the opportunity to get more eyes from more people and create things. Concurrently, what you have is people who are both friends of them and fans of them on the timeline who are getting excited and rooting for them to win. And they're saying, oh my God, look, Jake, look at Jake. It's hilarious. Oh, look what he's doing with Caitlyn Jenner. That's funny. Like, to them, this is comedy. This is interesting. And I think about myself, and if I was in my mid-20s, and again, it's not an age thing as much as probably like, actually kind of is like based on the general personality, I think, of someone when I put myself in that. So I'm just kind of like, more just transferring myself in a time capsule. It's like when I was in my 20s and I hung out with an OSU football, like I remember I beat an all-American OSU football player at beer pong. Doesn't matter that Mrs. NFT Bark was that person's partner and she was having an off day. It's just what happened. And what did we do? We bragged, to me and Tebow bragged all day.
Wait, I'm going to have to one-up this story when you're done.
No, I mean, it's not that, but this is actually kind of the point of it. It's not that interesting of a story. We had friends who like, we're all athletes.
It's interesting to you is the point. Just like my story, I beat Drew Henson, who was the quarterback at Michigan, a house party at Ohio State during the Ohio State national championship game. I'm probably the only person in the world that cares about that. But for me, it was pretty cool. Not only was it the quarterback of Michigan at the time, he had broken the national high school home run record set by not my uncle, but the guy my aunt dated when she was in high school, who also went to Michigan. It's
maybe your uncle, who knows?
Yeah, right. But no, the point is like, yeah, all these stories, like it's not important, but it's a piece of nostalgia. It's a core memory of mine that only matters to me.
And that's kind of the thing.
But stories, how you package a story can be entertaining, right? And you can share that story. I've shared the story about Jared Leto several times in me. Many people know this. See, Sheba would like that story, let me tell you. But it's one of those things that it's just how you package. Wow, now I'm saying package.
Anyone else picturing Sheba heading into the woods with Jared Leto?
Oh, Sheba doesn't know the Jared Leto story, but I'll tell him one day. Let's just say
let's just say the word package is apropos, but it's
yes. But no, the point of what I was trying to say is stories can only be important to you and mean something, but if you package it correctly and how you share it and how you're a storyteller.
Is he enunciating package or just me?
Now I'm just gonna go on mute. It's just about how you tell the story. Let me tell you.
No, I get it, and I see the point, and we'll go to Sheba. I think like part of it is like I always want to put myself in someone else's shoes, and if I am 25 years old and a celebrity launching a meme coin who is one of the main characters, not like I don't want to say the main characters of crypto Twitter, but a main storyline is coming up to me and I'm having the opportunity. It's like similarly, like I didn't like necessarily think the marshmallow prank that, OG and all those people, Jakey and all them pulled with the Cybertruck, was that funny? It was entertaining. I watched the video, like I was entertained, but like it wasn't like I was like, oh, they did it, oh, they're crushing it. But like their friends were excited about it, they were excited about it, and me as a 25-year-old seeing my friend do that probably would have been excited about it.
That's exactly how I felt about all this stuff. Like, it's not for me. Like, I don't find it entertaining, but I see other people like having fun with it and enjoying it. So I'm not trying to take that away from them. Like, do your thing. If you're having fun with it, do your thing. Like, create the content you want to create. Like, I'm not judging. It's just not something that I particularly am like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for the next video.
Right. All right, Sheba, get in here. Let's get Sheba in here. We'll go Outer Lumen, then Joey, and then we'll definitely get a little bit of Moonbirds in here, I think, early on, because it's worth talking about. But Sheba, get in on this.
Yeah, I want to make sure we leave at least 20 minutes with Riggs to talk about Moonbirds. Just leave at 9 o'clock, which is, math. Also, thanks for the 25-minute cold open. I messaged Steve and said, hey, let me come up and, co-host for an hour so you and Cap don't go on 25-minute cold opens. But it didn't happen. But now we are here. So I agree with Riggs 110%. This is probably the first time I'll ever say that. I think we've agreed on some things, but to the fullest, this is the first. For me, this is more cringe than me going into the woods with all my gay friends and hiking naked. It's gotten more cringe than that. The outside of the Jake and the Caitlyn Jenner thing, that's just one. Then seeing
wait, I have a genuine question. Genuine question. Do you really hike naked? Is this a thing, or are you just doing it for the bit?
I've done it, and I did it this weekend. So we can talk about it more later if you want. So outside of that, and then seeing Iggy on the stock market with everybody and Kramer is just, it makes me want to
like my brain is so messed up. I'm sorry. Like ticks, aren't you worried about ticks?
No. What are we like, diving into the grass? No, it's hiking trails. You walk in dirt, bro. There's the ticks don't jump out of the grass and leap onto your skin. That's not what happens. So let's try to stay on track here, Cap. So outside of Iggy going on the
me picturing a naked Sheba in the woods was not on my bingo card in 2024, but yet here we are. You're welcome, everyone listening in who has the same visual. You're welcome.
This is why we need me as co-host. It makes space a lot more interesting. So now, since we can't stay on track because Cap keeps pushing us off, and thanks to Riggs saying the word package and emphasizing on it, here we are. But yeah, the timeline's a mess. I think it's super, super cringy to the 10th degree. It bores the fuck out of me. Thank God Moonbirds dropped something, which we did yesterday, which was the art, which I hopefully we can talk more about, which is really exciting. And I've been snooping around tons of chats and hanging out on Twitter all last night, or X, and looking at people's comments. And overall, I think 98% of the people in this space like the art, and also think we're in the cringiest phase ever. So I don't know. It's all for good fun. I get it. The Frank D. Gods thing, the quick statement, I think I still have the same thoughts about it. He's not produced anything since the launch. Since I bought the Utes 2 years ago, I don't think he's done anything right. The meme thing and being super cringy and creating content, it's good for the Gen Zs, right? I don't know what gen he's in, or what, I forgot how old he is, 22 or something. It's what they do. They do the cringe content, and I guess that's a good way to onboard people. Joey Exotic, I don't think that's really him. I think it's somebody on his account. He bought a Utes and he started tweeting people, and then he followed me, which is a little scary. So I have to make sure I don't let him find out where I live when he gets out of prison. But it's super cringe, like just random celebrities just jumping on things, and there's the right way to onboard, and then the good publicity, and I don't know. It's a mess. But either way, I think we still have spaces like this where we can focus on NFTs and still talk about the nonsense. And maybe we'll get out of this meta soon. And I don't think we're going to get out of it until two things happen. We break the all-time high, or we really break down underneath 55K Bitcoin, and then all these fucking coins die and they have nowhere else to go besides back to NFTs and actually start building out this.
Steve, I'll let you take it to Outer and Joey here. I think the other piece of news that I did see that is worth at least mentioning is the updated Pudgy blueprint. That was tugging on my heartstrings. I think Luca and team book another dub, and I haven't seen many people talking about it on the timeline.
Wait, the bubble spiderweb thing? Oh god. Briggs is gonna hate me for this one, but so they just put a bunch of words on a piece of paper.
No, man, it's like tap into the lore. It's their point a page out of Walt Disney's book. It is paying homage to Disney, and there is a graphic that you can probably find the side by side if you look hard enough. But this is a derivative of how Walt Disney built Walt Disney.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was a nice play, and it got, to your point, similarly tugged at my heartstrings. It reminds me of in Disney World, There's a place where if you go they do like the Meet Mickey where you bring your kids in the front of the
in
park.
2021, everyone's like, oh, we're the next Disney. We're going to build the Disney of Web3. Luca's out there just doing it.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool seeing the like when you walk into like the front like Disney World and Magic Kingdom on the right, there's like the Meet Mickey thing there. And when you do that, it's actually like I said, it's pretty dope. You see all these old school sketches and drawings they have in that building from it, or at least I think that's what they are. Maybe it's props, but like it reminded me a little bit of that because it was like the sort of like the Disney throwback. But Outer Lumen, go ahead and get in here on this topic.
That topic specifically, pass. But I have
no, like any topic we discuss.
I'm just bugging you. I like your new PFP, by the way. I have a couple things I wanted to share. So I'm just trying to choose the best order to tell this story and package it in the right way. Let's see. I like my Moonbird art, but I saw some other people salty about theirs, and that's fair. I think, if I got those 3D glasses, I probably wouldn't like that either. So it all depends on what you got, but mine's great. Happy with the diamond necklace rendition. I wanted to mention that Lex Friedman, who I'm sure most people here know who that is, and his podcast, he had Kevin Spacey on there recently, and that's pretty racy. I don't think it's the Andrew Tate thread guy equivalent, but it still causes questions for those people that cancel Kevin Spacey and those people that draw a line between him being an amazing actor and people also being like, well, is he acting on the podcast? Like, he is one of the best actors. So what do you believe when the guy gets Oscars for?
Can we pull on this string a little bit, because I use the Kevin Spacey example when people are giving Thread Guy a hard time, or I use the Lex Friedman example when people are giving Thread Guy a hard time about interviewing Andrew Tate. I do think there's a difference. I don't think Lex is out there on the timeline like begging Kevin Spacey to come on his pod, but Lex is one of the long form interviews that has interviewed a lot of, we'll just say, individuals with questionable backgrounds and questionable reputations. I don't see people fighting Lex on the timeline. Maybe it happens, but it's like.
Well, this is what I was going to finish with on that, is that Lex is very clear on like, hey, let me know if something is offensive or whatever. And he has apologized previously for certain things when people have called him out, but he's not going to stop, questioning questionable people, if that makes sense. But I agree in terms of the fact that the approach is very different. And I think Lex has way more clout given his like long-term, like established kind of like, I want to say not cloud chasing in the same way, but at the same time, I could see how it's necessary for Thread Guy to build a platform. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not actually giving my personal opinion on any of this. I just reminded me of that. To your point, Cap. Like I whenever I saw that, I'm like, this has like a similar vibe to some of the stuff that Lex is up to.
I think one nuance there that I would throw in, and again, you're not like arguing for, against, or anything like that, so I'm not putting these words in your mouth.
Because I wasn't fully aware of all the Andrew Tate stuff. I don't follow him. It's one of the few individuals in my life that I've actually formed an opinion of based on solely on the opinion of others. I've not listened to his videos. I've not followed him. I've not seen anything he's put out there. But so it's like, that's where it's like, maybe I should be educated on this individual and all the characters out there with questionable reputations and backgrounds.
Yeah, and I think I was going to say, like, I think there's also a nuanced difference between, and this is, again, maybe this is where we'd evolve and we'd see the different like style. What makes Thread Guy's style really interesting to me is that I think I always talk about, I watch other podcasters to see how they do things better than me and how I can learn. He builds rapport extremely well. When you watch, I mentioned the Rich the Kid as a perfect example. When he had Rich the Kid on his podcast, Rich the Kid had his defenses up early on. You could see it. You could see how he was a little more laid back. And then by, the middle of the interview, he had dapped him up twice and he was having a good conversation and he made him comfortable. Part of that is, I think, what his, charm, allure, etc., is that he brings to the table as a host. Now, Lex Friedman had a guy who was making the case for AI basically destroying the world. Lex Friedman is deep in the AI world. That's obviously where he kind of started, how he first, or sort of his passion, and or at least one of his major passions. Lex Friedman sat there and debated the guy in a tactful way over a topic that wasn't even that controversial, like comparatively to like having someone like a Kevin Spacey on. He just, sort of wanted to have the conversation in a very like deep way and make sure you put it that way. So in my mind, Lex Friedman as an interviewer is somebody who puts people on their heels, and not in a way that's, sort of not in a disingenuous or gotcha way, just in a way of that's the type of host he is. And I think that, and again, Outer wasn't arguing one way or the other on it. She was just sort of like stating the comp. But I think the comparison to me there becomes like, okay, well, Lex, on the other hand, is willing to go there. And I wonder if Thread Guy gets sucked in, especially, I use this example, and these are not the same people. I'm not comparing Andrew Tate to Dwight Howard, but I use the example of when Dwight Howard went on Part of My Take. I listened to the interview, which is the #1 sports podcast. I listened to the interview and I was like, hey, Dwight Howard's actually kind of endearing. And then you find out that he puts on this act for some of these things because he's trying to do things on one way, and then maybe he's not the best person in the other way. And so that's the worry. And it's not like this idea that we need to protect Thread Guy at all costs or something. But for a space perspective, I do want to make sure, one, he doesn't get sucked into something that he doesn't realize, because we do conflate celebrities all the same and not realize the difference there. And two, the stylistics of it, I think, matter as well. But I think it's a fair comp, because I promise you that Lex Friedman got a lot of shit for Kevin Spacey.
I couldn't get through it. Like I'm a Lex fan. I selectively listen to his interviews. I ran out of content this weekend, and I looked at it like, I don't really want to listen to this one. I did, and it was hard for me to listen to. I like Outer. I multiple times it's like he's lying. Like it was
right?
I couldn't finish it. And that's not uncommon. Occasionally his interviews will get long and I won't finish all of them. But this was like the first one I can remember that it was like I was consciously thinking, I don't want to listen to this.
Yeah, I couldn't trust it. And that was mainly because I'm like, this is an incredible actor that I've admired. He was one of my favorite actors. And that was
for the longest time, I would say Usual Suspects was one of my favorite movies. Now I don't even mention it.
Absolutely. I know. And it's so tricky because I'm listening to it and I'm like, well, wait, you are incredible at doing the very thing you might be doing right now. So how can I, like, it is your craft to act. Like I have no take.
Professionally trained to lie to us. Like he's professionally trained to be a pathological liar.
And the method actor at that, like it's wild. Okay, I have a couple more things I wanted to bring up, and one relates to crypto, and one is an ask. I just got an Apple Watch from Divide, and I don't know if I want to keep it or not. So if you're an Apple Watch user and you're listening, can you please DM me and tell me why you like your Apple Watch and how you use it? Because I've got 14 days left to return my new fancy gadget, and I don't know if I want it in my life or not. So
it tells time and it displays your NFTs on it, and you can ping it when you lose your phone or you can ping your phone when you lose it.
Well, I have the fancy one that's like a dive computer and all kinds of other shit. So I'm interested in people to see if they're using it for health, especially that kind of stuff.
So I'm currently I rotated off the Apple Watch onto a Whoop for a year. I stopped paying for the Whoop subscription because the Apple Watch can do almost everything that the Whoop could do. It's not quite as good on the sleep front yet, but with the new updates that they just announced this past week, I think the Apple Watch has leapfrogged the Whoop, the Fitbit, every other fitness device in the market, and also it's a smartwatch that connects to everything iOS. So for me, I'm off all fitness trackers and I'm back full Apple Watch fanboy.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go climbing with it and see if it could actually like tell me how much height I've climbed at the gym, just to see. Like, I'm curious because apparently it's quite sensitive to location. This like fancy one, so that might be the thing that makes me keep it. But also, like, shout out to Divide for just being like, you know what, Outer, you need the fanciest of iWatches if you get one. I'm like, okay, I guess I do.
Outer, my wife did the exact same thing to me. She was like, you got to get the fancy one. So like, I ended up getting the fancy one. And I was like, man, I'm cheap. Like, I'm a cheap bastard. And so like, I was like, man, this thing is too expensive for me. And I would never take it back. I use it every single day from a standpoint. It's primarily my exercise and health monitor. That's kind of what I've been using it for on this journey. And so, but one of the things for you, I also would recommend diving into the types of faces you can have. If you pick a face that provides you with a bunch of information, like I have a face that has a compass on it. And people are like, why the fuck do you have a compass? Well, when you get out of a subway in New York City, I can look down and see which way I'm facing to make sure I'm not circled around and I'm walking the correct way, north, south, east, or west, because sometimes you get turned around, right? And so it's a great use certain things, depending on where you're at and what you need, you can go and find the right utility in essence on a face. So dive into those and see if there's one that makes sense for you.
That's awesome. Okay, yeah, but it doesn't do like Twitter or any of that. Like, there's no like actual like apps like that I could use on it, or does it?
You can use it. Yeah.
Well, you can see it, but it's like it's not like you're not going to be tweeting off it. You're going to use it for that purpose. Or in Riggs' case, he is a conquistador who uses the compass. So that could be.
You can technically tweet with quick replies as well. Like if you get a tweet that hits it, there's quick reply buttons that you can do, or you can use the talk to text feature.
But if I leave my phone and keep the watch, and I don't bring my phone, sounds like I can be even more productive because I won't be doom scrolling Twitter. Okay, my very last point, and this is important.
Hold on, I got to give you one additional feature, Outer. It's an underrated fucking feature. If Divide has a watch, the walkie-talkie feature is fucking incredibly fun to use. And so it's like, it reminds me of Nextel. Like, so me and my buddies, like down, like I have a buddy who has one down in Charlotte. We rock the walkie-talkie feature to get a hold of each other. And it's just incredibly fun. It's underrated.
Oh, okay. I might actually get that for my kid instead of Divide. That sounds like it's fun. Okay, last thing. And I realize, ironically, this is probably most relevant for people that are probably not on the space because they don't have their Twitter account anymore. But maybe you're on an alt and you miss your Twitter account. There's some alpha here that I think is important. So one of my ex-teammates from the Hash Masks, when I worked at the Hash Masks, he grew a following of, I don't know, maybe like 14,000 followers. And just like my partner Divide, his account was randomly suspended for, I don't know, whatever reason that these things happen for. And he was like, unlike Divide, who was like, whatever, I'm just going to cry in the corner and go to Warpcast, and then eventually came back with a new account. This guy's like, yeah, no, that's not happening. So he investigated on like how to actually get his account back, like once they stopped responding to him because Twitter didn't do anything. And there is this law firm, I believe it's out of Germany, but I don't think it matters where you're located. And so he paid them $500 US, and they just do this like standard template where they, like, from a legal entity, contact Twitter and are like, hey, on behalf of this individual, blah, 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 we'd like to know why it's canceled. And it's an official like thing that they serve. And so he got his account back once he got through all the filling out of the forms and paying them steps. Once they submitted it to Twitter, it was within 2 days that his account was back. And then he did that for the Hash Masks because the Hash Masks Twitter account was suspended. So we filled out all the forms and sent everything in. And then once all of that was legitimized within a couple of days, that account is back on. So that's 2 instances now of using this firm to basically pay $500 and get your Twitter account back that's been suspended. And I thought that might be good alpha for anyone who's had that happen to them and is missing their old Twitter account. It's not dead. You can get it back if you're willing to spend some money. So that's some alpha I wanted to share. I asked Divide if he wanted me to do this for him, and he's like, hell no, he does not care. But if you are a person that does and wants your old followers and account back, you may want to consider this law firm. I'll see if I can find the post from my ex-teammate there on which firm it is, so that you have the alpha.
Right on. No, good alpha. Let's do this. I want to go down to Joey here, and then we'll see how long. Let's go down to Joey. Like I said, I want to spend at least a little bit here on Moonbirds because I do want to like know what's going on with that, just because it happened. So let's go Joey Vowles first, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But Joey, get in here with anything you want.
GM guys, before I talk about what I wanted to talk about, Cap mentioned like the all in on the Apple Watch, but then last night in the Discord, he promoted this ring that I went and bought now.
Ooh, did you use my code?
What?
Did you use my referral code?
Yeah, I used whatever you sent.
I'm going to drop it up above now. If anyone is interested in what Joey's about to describe, use my ref code, please.
Is this like an Aura ring? But
I don't want to go too deep on fitness trackers this morning.
No, I'm not going to go that. Okay. I'm not going to go that deep.
But way better than the Aura.
Yeah, it's this. Listen, I don't know that much. I just don't own one, and I've never bought anything like this because I don't find the point of spending the money, and because I have Magic Internet money and I can buy it with Magic Internet money, I'm not really spending the money on it. So I figured, hey, give it a shot. But it's similar to the Aura Ring.
But the key part you're missing here is that not only is it internet money, is that you'll earn internet money by using the thing. Like, I think that is the missing component. That's like, this is one of the things that to me is so inevitable. Like Nike, all the big athletic brands, they're all going to launch some sort of use to earn, pay to earn, fitness to earn. Like I don't see it not happening. And this is one of the ones that's really coming to market with something that seems pretty viable. Go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's, I've never worn an Apple Watch they didn't exist when I had the iPhone 5. I did have like the Samsung equivalent for a while, and I just never wore it, never liked it. I've never been a big tracking person, but I figured this is cool. It was only 1.5 Sol, so I'll give it a shot. And it reminds me of all the things that are happening right now in the like, we say like the real world, like the real world space where you put the thing under your car and it tracks your driving, whatever. So as somebody who's already into fitness, health and fitness, if I can just wear a ring that's going to earn me points, which will potentially earn me some type of token airdrop or whatever the case is, why not? For 1.5 Sol, give it a shot. But yeah, anyways, so I ended up buying one last night because Kat posted it and I was like, sure, let's do it. But the reason why I wanted to comment was on the celebrity thing. Was like, if we remember, 2021, 2022, when we were in that bowl, how many celebrities came into this space because they saw an opportunity to capitalize on their popularity. We had athletes, musicians, movie stars. I mean, you name it, they were here. Because they're always looking for a way to monetize their fan base. Because the reality is most of these people, when it's all said and done, like anybody that has any experience in the music industry, or that their agents, their labels, they take a lot of their money. And back in the bowl, we talked about like why the blockchain makes sense for so many of these people, right? Like why instead of signing with a label or whatever, why not release your music as an NFT and then you get to keep all of it and make royalties on it versus signing with a label and whatever, right? Like we had all these ideas of how these people could better monetize their personal brand. And it's, to me, the idea that all these celebrities are now coming back, it's got to be a bullish signal, right? Like if they're all coming back after the only last time they were here was the last bowl, it's got to be telling us that we're either A, doing something right, which means we're going to continue to grow, or B, like the general sentiment around making money in this space is positive. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think that we need to learn from our past transgressions, right? Like, so when the dude from Migos came out with Apes in Space and was like, don't worry, I'm going to send somebody to space. And we're all like, yeah, let's buy this overpriced NFT because we get a chance to go to space. And then it went to zero. Like, we just need to remember what it was like when this happened last time and not make those same mistakes.
I had a tweet to this effect. It was basically like, hey, like, let's not run back 2021, keep your head on a swivel, but be cautious. And I think that's the lesson. If celebrities and people are coming in, that is not a bad thing, despite the fact that we like to think that, any celebrity means grifting. It just means that people are interested in the space and they're playing around, and some are going to be good, a lot are going to be bad, and that's part of the game when there's money to be made. But agree, important to sort of keep your head on a swivel and make sure that you're DYORing on that stuff. I know we have 12 minutes left, so I'm going to go to Shiva just to get Shiva, give me like a because I did invite you on here this morning on this one. Give me a couple minute overview on what we need to know about what Moonbirds did yesterday, because I have not kept up with it. I like the new art. I think the new art's great. I think the new art looks awesome. For the most part, not all the traits, and I get it. Everyone has their own opinions. Art's subjective. I don't.
No, I mean, I'm not going to FUD, but don't, like some of the ones I seen, they need to be fixed. No,
it may be. I don't know. Like, I mean, at least for me, like I kind of like them, but
you got
So I think they could fix them, right? Like that. This is not something that's complicated where it was like a mint and people minted the thingy, and it's a lot harder. I'm pretty sure they could go back and fix some of the traits. So, what did you miss? The art drop and a short video, which I can probably pin if I can find it, which is pretty much just like Colin working on the art, which they've done in the past with like how they created it type thing, which is supposed to segue into more in detail. I'm assuming they're just doing the usual drag along with dropping things, which is where my annoyingness comes in with this whole thing. So overall, I think yesterday went great. I just think it could have went way better, and this is where I feel like me and Riggs are on the same boat here. Coming in,
you mind? It's only the OGs. It's not. There's only the singular version for the mythics. There's no second version of art on those.
Yeah. Mythics are only one version. I mean, we did have the mythic mirror that Hollow did, and that just turned your mythic into like a moonbird, or no, vice versa, turned your moonbird into a mythic. My bad. But yeah, now we have this. So people are kind of saying that this art resembled that, but that's the point of this whole thing, is the mythic and the moonbird art is supposed to connect a little bit better. So as they take this whole new direction with the storyline and what they're doing with mythics, when you actually see them together, it makes sense. It wouldn't make sense if you had pixelated birds running around with the mythic art. That wouldn't make sense in any type of animation, storybook, or anything. It didn't matter. That would make no sense. So I think the direction is nice. I love the art. Colin absolutely hit it out of the park. Like I said, there's a few traits that could be probably adjusted, but overall, I think the consensus of the space really does like the art. I talked to a lot of apes too. They seem to like the art. So I think Riggs and Jay are the only two people that absolutely hate their art. I think Riggs.
I don't hate it.
Saw the Gromp. Hold on. When I saw the Gromp, I was like, "Fuck, Riggs is gonna be so pissed." I could just see Riggs IRL being like, "What the hell is this?" But yeah,
I definitely think Riggs's OG is far better than the new version. I will give.
Yeah,
you,
it is.
The Toad is just, it was not well done.
I think the Toad was just too scrunched, right? That would be a good way to put it. It just looked like it was just too close together. I think they could have made it a little bigger, like a frog. But go ahead, Riggs.
I'm glad they shipped it. I actually like the pixel art. I'll side with Riggs here. I prefer the original ones. I think they're the best pixel art in the space, and I don't think they needed the new ones. I guess they're attempting to give some IP rights to the community and think that'll provide a spark. It's kind of a nothing burger for me. It doesn't. I say that also not holding an OG. So why do I care? But I actually prefer the original art.
But like Shiba, let me ask this then real quick on this one, is that, you're like you made a comment earlier where you're like, Frank D. Gods hasn't done anything, right? Like you made this comment about Frank. I guess what I'm trying to understand is the difference and the nuance with Moonbirds, right, on this particular one. And obviously I'm friends, I know people on the team, like I like them, but like, we had a conference that jumped and got canceled. We had High Rise that jumped and got canceled. They've run some IRL events, but so has D-Gods. They just did an art refresh way after D-Gods. What is the plan or the differentiator here that we're going to see that makes it seem different? Because if you're very against Frank D-Gods, but we just have an art update and a bunch of executions didn't work, and I feel like Moonbirds objectively is in very much the same spot. What do we see as the difference here between those two, I guess, if we're just seeing an art upgrade coming in here on this one?
I think in this case there's more than just an art upgrade. And not just I think. This is a fact that they're taking this new art with the direction, with the whole Moonbird mythic, the whole ecosystem. This is not just changing the art. This is new, and that's kind of like what they did over there. There's concept behind it, which is the storyline that is with mythics, which is tying it all together. So there's a reason for redoing this art. This is not just redo it because some people like pixels and some don't. Like if you go look on Magic Eden, where you can easily toggle the illustrated version to the pixelated version on the top left of every Moonbird, well, almost every Moonbird. There's some of them that still haven't loaded, which is GG. It's almost 12 hours later, and you still can't see them all. But if you go there, you can check it out, and it looks really nice together. Even the pixels to the new additions, the colors, they mix well.
What are they doing with the art is what I'm saying. You said there's a story or there's something else happening. Like what else is happening, I guess is my question to really.
They haven't clearly put it out into the public yet. And I was hoping that was going to be part of yesterday, and that's why I'm lightly disappointed, because Riggs is like, it's probably just going to be like how they created the art. And I'm like, if it's a Colin video, I'm going to fucking flip. And then not even 10 minutes later, there was a Colin video. So I'm like, well, piss. So I'm just I I don't know. I'm the patient MFer, but like, come on now. We've been here since February. It took 2 months to get Yuga's in, and we're now we're going into July, and it's like we can't even get a 3-minute animated video of the Mythics running around in some grass and some short animation. Like, that's all I'm asking, is so they can actually see what they look like moving around, not just Colin's amazing art. I want to see them move, and I think a lot of people do. And until we see a direction that they're taking, no one's going to buy this because the art is cool. I think it's really nice, but it's a selling point to the degree. But when people ask me what are they going to do next, like you just did, my response is they haven't showed us yet.
I guess that's the challenge I have, and since my account is nerfed, if I put out a tweet about it, no one's going to see it because I don't have my check mark because of the PFP. But like, I guess that's the challenge I have, and I'll get like I want to get I would definitely want to get like sort of like Joey and Outer's thoughts on this. I saw their hands go up.
Yes, 5 minutes.
Because we have our special guest coming in. Eric is on stage, but we got him coming in to talk travel swap in a few minutes. Maybe 9:05 if we go a couple hands as we go here, because Eric's our man, and I know he's cool with it because he's my guy. But like that's the thing I'm struggling with. And again, I'm not like just trying to be redundant here, but it's like if people are going to knock on DGods for simply changing the art, it's like I actually don't know what Proof and Moonbirds has done beyond. Obviously, early on they had the Proof Pass. The art drops were awesome. I thought Proof Collective was an amazing idea. I wanted to be in that so bad. I kicked myself for not getting that. Then, they brought out Moonbirds, and like Moonbirds were an exciting launch, but outside of creating money, dropping a mythic, which again created money for people if you were the one to sell it, or not a mythic, the oddities, then the mythics. But like they've sort of done very similar things to DGods when you line them up together. Like this is the Office meme where if you put them next to each other, it's kind of the same picture. And I guess like that is the thing right now that, and by the way, for the record, I like DGods. I think DGods is a really strong community that is in it to win it together. They, Frank seems lighter on the timeline to me since he started just saying like, fuck it, like we ball and this is what we are. We're basically going to be a decentralized fraternity more or less. And he said that probably a year and a half ago and has held to it. So he hasn't changed on that. But I think Moonbirds is sort of this similar situation. It's a decentralized group with people like Shiba and others. Great community, but
I definitely want to add just one thing, Steve, before we let Riggs go, because I really want to hear just what Riggs wants to say. But the whole point of this new journey with Moonbirds, like we said this in a few occasions, this is like chapter 1 of like the new beginning. Just think of it like that. So the way the story is going to be told is like this is the new beginning. So everything that happened in the past between Moonbirds, the Mint, and Kevin Rose, and the last 2 years, and 2022 NFT bull run, the bear run, it's in the past. Like this is a reset for Moonbirds. It's how the community's taking it. It's how Hollow's taking it. It's how
it's how the team's taking it. It's not how the community. It's not how the community's taking it, and it shows that they don't have a pulse on the community currently. Because if you don't empathize with the past, you can't move to the future. Plain and simple. And there's a lot of pain there. So here's my thing, and I do have to go. And sorry, Steve. Sorry, Shiba. I know you wanted me to jump in and share my thoughts. I think the art was, okay. I think there's some that are really good. I was very disappointed in mine. That's okay. I wouldn't have used the new art anyways. The pixel art's OG. It's the best. Is what it is. My biggest complaint is once again they didn't come prepared. They showed up to a space. They didn't have her run a show. They didn't have an intro. They didn't have, interview questions for Colin. It just felt unprepared.
You only have so many opportunities, right? Like you only have so many
Correct.
that you can talk about, so many activations, if you will. You got to nail them. And even if it's like, oh, this is just an art update, well, make it bigger. Like make it
bigger. That's what I keep telling Hollow at this point because I'm trying to help Hollow out. Like you have to make these big. You have to tell a story. You only get certain moments to gain momentum. This is an opportunity to gain momentum, but now what? What now? How are you going to carry through with this? What are you going to do to tell the story? Not just that, what are you going to do to bring the community along to tell the story? Are you going to start licensing some of these birds to be part of the lore? There's so many things that they have to think through, but they have to move fucking fast. And I don't think they do it. Either way, I do have to go. I've got to hop on a meeting at 9:00. Love y'all. Appreciate it. Steve, Cap, thanks for letting me come up and get a little spicy this morning. Have a great rest of the show.
Double spice from Riggs. A little spice in the celebrity meta, a little spice on the Moonbirds meta. Yeah. So to me, it's like, it's a show me thing. And we say this with all the time with brands. It's like, show me, and then we'll go outer than Joey in that order. just to bring it back in. But like, show me is what it's all about. It's like, it's cool to say like we're leaving this in the past, but it's like, if I have a significant other who cheated on me 6 times and is like, I'm a changed woman now, I'm ready to come back, let's do this thing. Like, I'm going to be like, let's go ahead and see if we can go not cheat on me by every other month. And then we'll talk about it being new, right? It's like, if that's the case, and I think it's like, it's a weird analogy, but it's true. It's like, you can't just ignore that similar team in place has done everything.
I just want to acknowledge, appreciate everyone hanging out. I know Moonbirds isn't everyone's topic, neither is D-Gods. I will also, I just want to acknowledge Diabolito's quick comment that, he says, that he's not interested in either of these topics. And I see no reason, talking about D-Gods, I see no reason to buy one. Just go to college for it. If you're 20, do the frat thing and learn some stuff. Well, sure, that's fair if you're in college or you're college age. I will also say it costs a lot more than 1 ETH to join a fraternity, and your dues and
go to college. There you go.
Far more expensive. So like, for people that are knocking this idea of a social club, I would encourage you, go look at the cost to join a fraternity and in the social element that comes with that. It's not free. People pay for this, and I still believe there is a big demand for this idea of a social club, and they're all going to be different. Like doing shoeies isn't for me, but I can appreciate there is a group of people that they just want to get together and play some drinking games and throw back some beers and have a good time. I teach their own. Like I think lean into that. I think there is something there. Fully acknowledge it's not for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it. It's like, I agree to some degree. I understand the purpose of it, but it's like, yeah, like it's actually a lot cheaper than joining a fraternity or going to college to join D-Gods. And if you put in the work, you can see, again, like I use OG as an example sometimes. It's like, you got a Ute, want to be a content creator, has been featured, gets impressions, has picked up a ton of followers, has gotten featured in videos, has gotten sent places by Travel Swap, all these different things because he's worked in that community, so it works. Let's do some hand speed run before we get to our friends at Travel Swap. Let's go to Outer first. Outer, get back in here.
Thanks. Yeah, well, 2 things. I'll talk about the networking, and then I'll want to say something about the Moonbirds. Actually, I'll do Moonbirds first. I don't know. I said I don't mind the art. I think it's actually like the way that they executed it itself in terms of like the mechanics. It makes sense. I mean, it's not new. Like, the first project to do that like iframe toggle in a marketplace was Little Lemons. If you remember that project, they did the pixel switch from the original art, and you can just toggle. You can still see it on OpenSea. And it makes sense. And then Pixel Vault picked that up with their DOT evolutions. It kind of became the standard to display like many art states. Like, that's not new, but it makes sense in how it's displayed. And I'm not mad about it. What I think is neat is that you can go on their site and then like actually change the way that permanently outputs until you change it again, which I think is really neat. And yeah, like if you're going to give IP back, of course you need to do it with new art. But I agree that like I do prefer my pixel art over the new stuff, even though I'm not mad about it. And then as far as the networking thing and the social club thing, like, I don't know, this is like for those louder in the back, because like networking is such a huge part of like the success that you are going to have in life in general, especially in career life. Like, it's not just your diploma or accolades that matter. It's also about not having like 200 cold interviews and trying to get in somewhere versus like somebody holding the door open for you because you met them at some conference or met them at some, wherever you met them, right? Like, that's so huge in helping out. And like, and I'm not even talking about a hypothetical example. My entire career in Web3, from hash masks to Yuga to now the Taproot Wizards, has been completely organic from being part of social clubs and being here and networking and being involved. And it has very little to do. In fact, I did not cold apply to any of those positions. And it is so powerful to get that, whether it's going to be from some club here or you invest in getting into, frat, however it is you do it. Like, getting a network of people that are smarter than you and are more advanced than you are in what they're up to is just going to uplift you big time. So I cannot stress that enough for people that are listening that are like, oh, what do I do? How do I, do career things? Well, not just about collecting degrees. You have to get out there and network. It's so important.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that that's part of like where, I mean, I use Bored Ape Yacht Club as an example. Like people like feel some type of way about Bored Ape Yacht Club. I met some of my best friends through having that monkey JPEG. Cap, who I now host a show with, is one of my collaborators. Was able to move my career in a direction where I was able to meet Bunchu and Chamber and again like Cap and Morgan and G and others to found DGen Network. And then that led to me ultimately getting the opportunity to co-author that Harvard Business Review article after I got that Bored Ape Yacht Club. That led me into a club where I met people and networked, which then led to me writing articles, which a Harvard professor used in his class. That Harvard professor became one of my best friends in the whole world. We talk twice a week on Zoom meetings. How often do you see your friends? I talk to this person twice a week on Zoom meetings because Scott's like my guy, right? And we just talk about life. And sometimes we talk about works, other times we don't. So it's like those things that you can have, those compounding network effects, if you put in the work and do it, they really are there. Cap's made the point where it's like, if you buy a BAYC and you just want it to go up, go to the moon, and that's that, and you call it a day, like you may not see the same results you're looking for. If you actually put into the club, you will get things out of the club. We see that. I was listening to Welcome Apes yesterday with Mrs. NFT Bark, and you can hear that from the people who are on that show. So it's like, I just think the opportunities, to your point, is how you use it. And I like, the term networking can be so, it's almost been bastardized by so many people because it feels like it's like this, seedy thing. To me, networking in my old life was I go to a conference and someone tries to sell me something because I work for Progressive or I work for Nestle or my client was Starbucks or whatever it was, those sorts of things. And in this world, networking's very different to me. It's I see Eric at the Nolcha shows and I give him the biggest fucking hug because we talked so many times online and had Zoom calls, but we're now actually fortifying that connection and being like, oh my God, we're real. Nolcha.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought you said Minolta, like the old camera company.
Minuto, actually. No. But no, so I think like the Outer's point is so strong there. As well. But Joey, go ahead and get in here and then we'll probably talk. I'm stoked to talk Travel Swap, but Joey, get in here.
Yeah, I'll be super quick. Shiba made a comment about how long, it took between announcements and when the art showed up. And and then we're talking about the 3D glasses not having eyes behind them and like these mistakes and Shiba, and this is not you, this is like a common thing in the space where we make excuses. It's like, oh, but they can just fix it and then the new traits can come out, right? Like, but when do we get to a point where we start holding people to a higher standard and say, like, why did this even happen in the first place? Like, who's doing quality control? If you had all this time to draw all these new traits and this new art, why are they still being released with errors? And that's the part I think that gets me the most with a lot of this stuff is like, it's just sloppy. Like, it's unnecessary. If you're trying to be a business, you're trying to build a brand, you're trying to have all these stories and all this lore and blah, 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 but you can't even get a simple drawing right. How does that instill confidence in your community that you're going to be successful long term? Maybe I'm too harsh, but it just stuff like that just does it gets to me.
Okay, I just gonna push back only once because the thing that's going in my mind there is like, I don't know, Joey, why don't you actually do a derivative collection of 10,000 things and get everything right? As someone who's done that twice with 16,000 pieces per collection, the amount of QC that went into that, I hope I got everything right. I'm not even sure I did. It is absolutely extremely insane to manage that many layers when you're doing especially a derivative. So like, look, if they missed the layer of the eyes for the 3D things, they just have to push that algo through and it's fine. Like, I don't know what the intent is. I don't know. I can't speak to that specific project, but like, I'm not that mad about it only because I've now done it myself. And it's the only thing I wanted to push back on. It's like, I get now when someone looks from the outside versus like literally working on something for like 4 months and quality controlling it and what it actually means to do generative layering. Like, it's wild.
I respect real quick, and I respect that, Outer, but at the same time, you're like, they're a multi like 8, 9, like not multi 9-figure company that should have more than one person or two people doing the quality control. That's where, if you were just a small startup, a solopreneur, and you made a mistake, I will 100% say, like, you drew all of this, you did it all yourself, like, you made a mistake, it's okay. But we're talking about the biggest company in NFT and Web3 pretty much, not Web3, but in NFTs, like to me, that's the part I'm
I
struggling
think you're
with.
just missing the nuance of what, like, even within that, it's still going to be only a few people responsible for that, because you have to know the layers very deeply. And someone coming on board and onboarding is, yeah, like, it's just, you, again, maybe if you do it, you'll get the nuance of how it actually works, but it's like a lot to do all of the layering. And yes, maybe you could throw one or two more people on the QC side of it, but then you still have to educate them on what exactly they're looking for. So like, it's, yeah, it's a bit of an undertaking to do it and QC it properly. So yeah.
And I have done it, by the way. So I do know,
then,
and
so, so
I do
then
know
you
mistakes happen.
Yeah, it can be it can certainly be and not just that on art, but in general, I think I don't know that I've ever worked on anything that I've ever released. It's taken a lot of work, which has, and I'm not saying whether Joey's right or wrong in this instance. I'm not an artist, so I don't know that aspect of it. But I will say that I have worked on many long launch campaigns. Like I rebranded the entire and created basically the entire recruitment marketing brand for a Fortune 500 company, which is like a pretty big undertaking because that's bringing in your employees. That's, hundreds of thousands of applications on a sort of monthly basis that you're sort of sorting through and making sure that you can optimize it. And it's like we worked painstakingly on it for months upon maybe even, we might have even worked on it for over a year before the actual relaunch. But like once we relaunched it, there were little things that we missed that we weren't, we're like, how the fuck did we miss that? Just because I think all the time, anytime you try to put those in, like the quality controller is stuff that slips through the cracks, not invalidating like Joey's perspective, because I think, it is an art launch. So there are things, but things are going to happen, right? And it does happen to me when I launch anything big. Like I've never not had that happen. There were things that happened with a book launch where I'm like, how did I not see that coming? So I think there's always those things that pop through. So I think it's part of, it's part of the game when you have a major launch of any sort. But definitely to your point, doesn't always instill confidence. My confidence is less instilled in the sense that, to the point yesterday, like I thought we were getting this big update on what the next direction was. I thought we were getting that on the previous space they had done as well when they had the other one. And I think we still just have new art and vibe and community. And here's some behind the scenes in making the art. It's cool art. I like the Moonbirds. I like the D-Gods. But I'm waiting for that.
This sums it up. Let's keep it moving. I just that's it. It's the art's fine. It's not that big of a deal. I'm sure some people really like it. I'm sure some people think it could be better. But the problem is they didn't take advantage of their activation. They didn't take advantage of the one of the few announcements they have. And I think you got to be better there. Like this is an event-based business. This is an attention-based business, and that's where they dropped the ball. Is there was nothing else. It was just the art update. And the reality is you need more when you're attempting to regain attention and regain mind share. Like I wasn't paying attention to Moonbirds. I'm this, instead of making me pay more attention, I'm likely to pay less attention now because it's like, well, I guess there's just nothing happening.
Exactly. That's it. It's like, and Cap, I think that's a good point to kind of and like put a bow on it with, which is exactly that, which is, you like one thing I've mentioned this before. Pudgy Penguins squeeze every single ounce out of every announcement. When they have a major announcement, they have
announcement yesterday, and their announcement was better than Moonbirds. Moonbirds had something to talk about. Pudgy Penguins didn't, and Pudgy Penguins executed their post better than Moonbirds did their post in their subsequent space. There's nothing new. Like they literally didn't talk about anything, but they executed an announcement better than Moonbirds did, and they had something big to talk about.
Yeah, they think about it, and it's like I've had the conversation with the team. Like they think about how they're going to, like when I talked to Lorenzo in New York, it was my first time meeting him, and I was asking him about like the attention, and he's like we talked about it. We're like, why don't these brands do PR on their big announcements? He's like, and I was like, low hanging fruit, and he looked at me. He's like, low hanging fruit. It's free. It's easy. It's like you could do paid PR. You could do or paid a media. You could do outreach to media. You could do own media, and it's like every single Pudgy Penguins announcement. People talk about like why people glaze Luca and Pudgy so much. It's like because they do an inner igloo to keep their team informed, and then they send out a major announcement, and then their partner sends out a concurrent major announcement, and then Luca quote tweets it with something, and then the team runs up a space with people from the team, and then the community runs up a space afterwards. It's like they have 7 to 10 coordinated things, and that map yesterday they put out just showed they're thinking holistically about the brand, and I think that that's one of those things where, again, rooting for Moonbirds, rooting for them, rooting for Yuga, having them under the umbrella and all that stuff. But you had more attention yesterday on Moonbirds than you have in a long, long time.
And you got to take advantage, and they didn't.
Exactly. Like, that's it, Cap. So I think we can kind of like, I think we can put a bone in it. That's my takeaway.
I did find that drawing, the side-by-side comparison. Shout out to FFE, a regular in the show. I should have remembered it was him that posted it, but I did pin that up above if anyone's curious to see where they pulled. I assume that's where they pulled inspiration from. I'd seen that prior, and that was my immediate, they knocked this out of the park once again. And maybe it was coincidence, but I doubt it.
Yeah. So that's it. It's like, maximize when you have the attention opportunities. Who knows how many opportunities you are going to get in this sort of thing. And I think that's what it's important to be thinking about, related to, this sort of stuff, is that if you're an NFT brand, we talked about it with Yuga. Yuga, we've talked about like opportunities they've had where they made major announcements. So like, now capitalize on it, right? You sold off the gaming. Now what, right? And again, like, Yuga's doing just fine. They're running Inkfest. They have plenty of money. They're pivoting the brand. But all these brands, it's like, maximize the time when you have the attention, because right now you'll see situations where people end up getting, major brands, NFT brands that used to run up thousands upon thousands of people are getting. I mean, Moonbird's got 600 attendees at that space yesterday. That's not a small number, but that's roughly half of like a Coffee with Captain audience. But yet, when they've done some in the past before, you've seen them do 100, 120. It's like, this was when people were paying attention. This was a good chance. And, that I think is one of the takeaways. Again, not knocking on them. I like the art. I'm rooting for the Burbs. I would love to see them kind of have a comeback. I hope whatever they're building out is great, but we need to know what that is. And yesterday would have been a great time to drop it. Like thinking like, we're dropping the new art. Let's also drop a trailer. Let's also drop a teaser. Let's also drop a partnership. Let's get all this stuff kind of rolled into things. And I think that was the thing that was missed. And, to Sheba's point, we never got Sheba's video that he was looking for, or didn't get the one that he was hoping to get. So, that said, I know we're about 15 minutes past normal, our special guest, but welcoming on a longtime friend of the show before probably 90% of the people in this room were listening to this show. Eric is jumping up. He used to be in the GOATS community, pop up, or not that he used to be, he probably still has his GOATS, but used to hop up regularly to the show to chat through news of the day back when there was like 12 total people. And when we say that again, that's not like listening to the space. That's like in and out 12 people. Spaces didn't used to be you spin it up and you get 50 people in and out. It was hard in these streets, and Eric was one of the OGs. So first of all, Eric, GM, thanks for your patience. How are you doing on this fine Thursday morning?
GM. I'm doing good, man. Doing good. I slept awesome last night. I have my last few days in Mexico here. I'm excited to be back home. I've been traveling for like the last 3 weeks. So, but yeah, thanks for having me up. It was, we chatted like 2 weeks ago, I think, when they were talking about Blast stuff. So lots of interesting stuff. It's cool to like, I got to hop back on this show more now. I have team calls at 5:30 every morning. So I try it's tough to like try and make both, because I wake up at 3 to try and make sure my head's right. So I'm in the game at those calls, because usually there's, those hours, everyone's kind of dragging ass sometimes, but you guys get hypercritical in here. I fucking love it. Compared to 2 years ago, like as you just said, it was kind of a lot more discussion. Now it's like, oh man, it gets spicy in here. I like it though.
Depending on the morning, right? But it's like, I think we're at the point in the market where early on, I think we were bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. There was so much hope. People were innovating. And now we've hit this point where, you started to see, and I think the other thing is, and you've probably seen this as well, talking to some of the teams, you start getting behind the scenes, and there are some teams that you listen to, again, like a Pudgy Penguin, you're like, holy shit, these motherfuckers have everything planned for like 18 months. Doodles has shit planned so far out. And I was like, this is really impressive. This is like a real operating business. And then you talk to some who are like, all right, what are we doing next week? What would be cool? Wouldn't it be cool if? And so I think for a lot of us, it tosses us like for a little bit of a loop, right? Because we're like, all right, like we were excited about this and we were really excited about this team. We hear what people say on Spaces or in their tweets. And then we're like, wait a minute, you gave your team 2 weeks to execute on something major. So, it definitely can be a little bit of a struggle. But before we get into the travel swap stuff, I have to ask, you mentioned traveling for the last 3 weeks. So are you just basically a nomad around the world right now?
No, not at all. Not at all. The company's headquartered in Las Vegas. I live there full time. it just has happened, travel swap. I mean, our birthday was just like 4 days ago or something. The company, the platform itself was officially 1 years old. The company's been around for 6 years. But I've just been traveling. I was in Paris and Dubai for Token 2049, came back. We work with a lot of foundations and teams where they give us budgets in their native token, and we coordinate moving their entire teams globally to specific locations. So we just put a gaming team from Ronin in a giant VRBO here in Mexico. We flew 15 of their staff members from all over the world. They have yacht excursions, ATVs, and so we have two sites to kind of travel swap. We have our platform side where obviously like you can go and book in crypto, but we also kind of have a white glove B2B side where I'm doing that. So no, I actually don't usually take vacations unless I'm working on them. It gives me anxiety if I'm not working. I know it's like a catch-22 with me. So but no, I am not a nomad. I traditionally don't like traveling this much at all. I've had to like teach myself how to work remotely and like stay in tune, because when you're not at a desk and you're not at like your battle station, it changes things a lot. But I'd also saw my staff do it a lot. Like our UI person is mobile. Our dev used to be, but is not anymore. He's settling down in studio. So long story short, no, I am not a nomad. I like routine. So
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that. Like, I know Cap and I have had that conversation where we almost feel I have probably in the past, I would say 3.5 years, I have probably taken days where I've actually taken off, like legitimately, like I, I've still gone on Twitter or whatever, but like legitimately not worked at least like probably 4 hours, like some sort of work, probably like 3 times, maybe 4 times tops in the past 3.5 years. And I get uneasy, like my hands start shaking. And not that like I'm addicted to work, it's just you feel good, you know that. I was actually listening again. I mentioned part of my take earlier. I was listening to that podcast yesterday. They had Greg Olson on, and, Greg Olson was talking about being an announcer and how hard he works at it. And then they talked about being a podcaster. And he made this point where Big Cat, one of the hosts, kind of broke the wall a little bit and was just like, look, like, even when we're the number one sports podcast in the world for like 7 straight years. Even when we take off like the Memorial Day week and we pre-film 2 shows instead of putting 3 out. And one of them's a pre-filmed and then one of them's an actual show that we like do live. He's like, I'm like, we're going to lose our audience. This is it. We're going to lose. It's going to be all. And it's like that constant idea that like you're running away from these like sort of like zombies of your life falling apart. It's like, I'm so uneasy right now because I got sick for a week and I had planned to film a lot of content. I had planned to get a lot of stuff done. And I got really sick and I was able to do client work, but I wasn't able to do content work. And I'm like, I'm just going to fall off. Like, this is it. It's over for me. So I think like that idea of like constantly wanting to keep moving and running away from yourself, it's a weird trait that I don't think everybody has. And when I try to describe it to other people, like a lot of times they're like, what do you mean you can't relax when you're not doing anything? Like, I'm more relaxed. Like, my relaxing day, and tell me if this is like kind of similar, Eric. My relaxing day is like if I can work, say, because I've actually made a commitment to myself. I'm going to spend 1 to 2 hours a day on myself, no matter what. That could be stretching, that could be lifting, that could be walking my dog, that could be meditating, that could be the sauna, whatever it is. Got to be at least 60 minutes a day, 120 ideally if I could do it. But like, I think my ideal day for a relaxing thing is maybe I work 3 to 4 hours. I do coffee with Captain in the morning. That's a couple hours. Maybe do client work for a couple hours. Maybe do 1 more hour of like miscellaneous content work or something. And then I chill for the rest of the day. Are you very similar where it's like that's the relaxing day where you feel like you've accomplished something, but you do let yourself take a breather and maybe have a cocktail on the beach?
yes and no. My background is commission-based sales. So I come from
Oh,
a
God.
world that if you leave the kiosk and somebody walks up, it pisses me the hell off to know that somebody got a deal that I could have got, or that a competitor had somebody that was working there. And so that's kind of like, just I feel my best if you're like, Eric, when are you on top of the world? Right after I close a deal. So for me, that like what is that next thing that we can go and close and move forward? Like each moment I can kind of push the puck. That's actually when I'm at my most relaxed. I'm at my most anxious when I don't have a bearing on where a lot of different things are potentially, because either I was way distracted on something else. And so usually I know whenever I'm highly anxious, it's because I need to realign, get everything in order. And what I really need to do is go close a deal, right? What I need to do is either go close a partnership or do it right. Like, Travel Swap is, we've never had a large marketing budget. All of our clients that we've won have all been through high B2B sales relationships, our and three other commission-based sales team guys that I've, groomed and built from the ground up. And so, when we're on habitually, it's just kind of like, okay. And just so you guys know too, like, Travel Swap has a quota. So we have to do X amount of millions of dollars a year in our partnership with Expedia to keep our technology stack active. You cannot buy or pay monthly for the type of partnerships we have. You have to have experience in it. And so, we're in a much different spot because we don't I don't like I don't care how we look. I care how the product functions, right? I care about the user experience. I care, can we provide an awesome user experience, really valuable. In this case, we're talking about hotels and travel. So, can we provide a really awesome experience? How does a user search, right? Like how do I show them on vacation to make them think about it so that they're not even, the price isn't so much as, they can already see themselves at the beach. They can already see themselves daiquiri in hand, right? And making it so like that synergy between, product and like the experience you get around it, and monetizing it, like that's the stuff that like, that's what makes me happy. That's what gives me anxiety when I bury myself in deep water, obviously, because as a founder, you have to throw yourself in deep water constantly. Then once you learn how to tread that water, then you learn how to swim. Then you have to go out and be like, okay, where's the really next deep hole of water to just do this again? And if I don't do that, I'm highly anxious all the time. So
Yeah, no, actually, I feel that. It's funny, even though I'm not as good at celebrating wins, so good for you feeling relaxed after a deal closes. I'm terrible at that. But like, I feel very connected in the sense of like, I was talking to my co-author Scott the other day, and like we were like talking about like the next thing. He's like, well, what's the next sort of tech problem to solve, or what's the next sort of thing that we want to address that we think might be like a hole in the market that we can go deep and research on? And so it's similar but different, where I'm like, what's that next deep water I could dive into to kind of like do that? Because if I don't find it, somebody else is going to, and I could be the person to get there. For those who don't familiar, because we danced around it and obviously like we're friends, so we have the pleasantries and everything like that. Talk a little bit about what Travel Swap is, particularly on the B2C side, because I think a lot of people don't realize what you're doing is even possible to execute on. And it's something that I think a lot of people would be welcoming. It's like if you get that airdrop and you cash that airdrop and you sit with that airdrop in your hands, and you're like, yeah, but it's in USDC. And then if I convert it over here to this, and then I do this, and then I'm going to get taxed over here, and then I'm going to pull it off, and then I got a credit card. Talk a little bit about what Travel Swap is for those who aren't familiar with the company.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the lamest things in the world would say is like, "Oh, we're the next Expedia or something," because I don't see it that way. But Travel Swap is essentially, we're a hotels.com, we're an Expedia. The background on the company started doing vacation rentals in 2016. We were the largest vacation rental management business throughout the state of Nevada. Helped create a lot of the legislation there around those governances and operating. We approached. I got into crypto 2021. I made a lot of money off meme coins in a very short period of time. That's how I ended up in goats. It was funny because, is Rook even in here still? Rook was the one that told me that ETH was convertible back to cash for real money. I had wandered into goats and had, I made like 50 ETH, and he was like, "Are you going to sell any of that back to cash?" And I was blown away. And then, I asked him, I remember, I don't even remember, I asked him, I was like, "You can't just go to like a site, connect your wallet, and like pay with this?" And he's like, "No, no, bro, you got to bridge it. You got to create a Coinbase account. You're going to pay gas to send your ETH to the account. Then you're going to need to like swap it to dollars, and you're going to pay another fee to then transfer it to your debit account. But once you get it there, you can like go to Expedia and book." And I was like, I I think I asked, I was like, what's like, how much money is here at the time? And he's like, there's like $3 trillion at the time. And I was like, wait. There's $3 trillion of liquidity that businesses and people can't spend because we haven't figured out how to build crypto Stripe yet, right? No one's figured out how to make it so that they could legally and safely, like, this is, I just saw it like when my dad and grandma were cash and check only, and they would go into a business and, or they'd have their debit card for the first time, and that business would refuse because they didn't, they didn't have debit cards yet. And eventually over time that changed, right? Now, of course, even my grandma pays her bills online. She's not mailing a check, driving to the post office and mailing a check. And so the thesis of Travel Swap was essentially, how can a user have the same experience that they do currently, but there's that third tab at the checkout that says, hey, if you don't want to pay in debit, credit card, or PayPal, we built our own omni-chain payment stack using Gemini as an off-board partner. So we have institutional licenses to be able to swap these currencies to stables and be able to provide the same experience of a user that would go to Expedia. Now, and we pass through the lowest hotel rates. We don't mark up hotel rooms. So, I'm very well aware that the number one decision-making factor when a user is planning travel is usually price, right? It's the single most checked box and filter. And so, I knew very early that Travel Swap couldn't be like, hey, we take crypto, but we charge a 5% markup or something. To build a business off that isn't scalable, because long-term, accepting crypto isn't going to keep us competitive. There's a whole tech stack that influences the kind of the customer experience underneath it. And you kind of saw that. And so when we approached Expedia, we're their only crypto partner, integrated directly with them. We have a really, really, really strong relationship with them. They obviously are not interested in touching crypto at all, but they are interested in working with a partner that can bring them all the volume and touching a customer that they otherwise would not really be able to touch. And so, to answer your question, a user can go to travelswap.xyz. They can type in any hotel or location in the world. It'll pull up every hotel at the lowest rates. You can price check us against every major website, it doesn't matter. And then, at checkout, users can still pay debit, PayPal, but we built our own settlement layers on like Sui, ETH, Solana. We accept MOG. We started focusing a lot on building into meme coin culture and different things. And so we're about to add flights here. Should go live here in about a few weeks. That's kind of been our biggest disadvantage, and it just was very difficult to find a flight supplier that had global airlines. I mean, not to ramble on, but to give you 3 minutes of how difficult it is to build travel in this space. The reason most of the companies that try and enter travel fail is because you have two choices. You either try and go to every hotel and negotiate direct listing contracts, right? Which good luck going to Marriott and being like, hey, I just spun up the next Expedia. Let's give me access to your IMS. The cost to do that's astronomical. And even if you did, you would get whooped by Expedia's pricing algorithm. They have 25 years of machine learning and pricing and doing that. And so, or you go to a company like Expedia and you try and broker a deal where they give you access to the same API that hotels.com or someone like them has. And the issue with that is you have to already have proof that you've done millions of dollars a year in hotel business prior. So it's not an industry you can get into very easily. It requires an existing travel company to enter into the space to kind of get where we are, which puts us in a stronger position because it's not really able to be forked as far as like tech stack wise. Most of the time in Web3, right? You build looks rare. Well, you can fork that, add some UI features, and you get something slightly different, but the code is all ripped. And so I'll kind of pause there, answer any questions around that front.
Yeah, no, a lot of questions just generally around it. I actually want to go back to something you said earlier related to Expedia. You mentioned Expedia, you're their only crypto partner. They're not interested in sort of, getting into that world, but this gives them exposure to an audience at an arm's length, licensing things out. You have to do a certain number of business for them. You obviously had a pre-existing relationship there with your job that you've done in the past. I guess my question would be, as TravelSwap as a company, is the goal to say, you know what? Expedia is going to see this. We're going to continue to move this, and they're going to acquire TravelSwap. Do you want TravelSwap to always live as its own thing? Like, what would be the Goldilocks scenario for you as a founder? Like, that they sort of absorb you? Like, what would it be knowing what you're building?
Yeah. So, you talked about this briefly around the gods and moonbirds, and so we started at the application layer, right? We didn't start at the infrastructure layer. So we own obviously our own payment technology stack. It's a proprietary code base that we built, right? It's not like, like unlike our competitors that just use Pay Now, which is a third party source because it's easier to plug in somebody else's stuff. We built our own. We also have a hotel DEX marketplace coming online. So there's over $8 billion a year lost to non-refundable hotel rooms. So the ability to deepen the travel experience and allow a user.
Wait, what was that number? How much a year is lost?
I think it's about 8 billion.
That is bonkers.
Well, I mean, not really, because
I thought you said billion, and I was like, well, 8 million would make sense, but $8 billion burnt in non-refundable hotel fees is bananas.
Yeah, travel stuff. And so the idea of having you book $1,000 hotel room, I'm known for being cheap and booking non-refundable rates because I always tell myself, well, my plans will never change, and they always do usually. And so the idea that I could list that on a marketplace for maybe
can I share a hack
money,
on this topic? I think it's a hack. So you book the refundable room, and then you usually have like you can cancel it up to like 24 hours until you go, and then when you're for sure going a day before, you go check, and if there's rooms available, you just book and sometimes the rates will change, but often you can book and still get the cheaper refundable rate, and then go cancel your get the non-refundable rate cheaper like the day before, and then just cancel your refundable one.
Yeah,
I too am cheap when it comes to these travel hacks.
It depends. I mean, you could get burned both ways because if it's something that you're waiting last minute to book, prices traditionally will go up. But you could always, for sure, there's going to be classes of rooms that they're going to try and fill, and non-refundables are always the lowest rate. The funny thing is with this type of marketplace, somebody was like, Eric, I appreciate that you're, so the experience is that Captain could list his, he's got this booking, he can no longer make it. He could, list this for sale. Joey could come and be like, well, hell, I'm staying at the Hilton. Oh, cool. I see that the Hilton has rooms, and I see Captain has a listing, and his is $400 cheaper than the hotels because he's got to get out of that reservation. I'm just going to go ahead and buy that. As part of that experience, people put in their first name, last name, email address. The reservation flows from Captain to Joey. Joey can walk into the hotel and check in, and the hotel makes a secondary fee on it. We make a secondary fee on it, and it's not meant. I can already see the DJs in the room spinning. I live in Las Vegas. I come from the vacation rental world, and people try and snipe EDC weekend a year before because for $400 a night because they know it's going to be $4,000 when it's the Friday before. We're not incentivizing nor are we trying to build an arbitrage market. I had somebody tell me
people could do it, right? I mean, if I understand the flow,
technically stopping them, no, but we're not incentivizing it.
I see Michael Keene out there. He is aggressively looking for hotel rooms that he can flip on TravelSwap this very minute.
Yeah. But the whole point of this again is, it came from the idea of this solves a problem for myself. I regularly get myself into a scenario where I book a non-refundable hotel room, and I would love a way to get myself out of that, even if it meant losing a little bit of cash, but at least I get something back because the hotel's already said that they're not going to give me anything. On top of that, we built an omni-chain rewards protocol. So very shortly, when you book a hotel, you're going to earn crypto rewards across 5 different chains. So you'll earn stables on like Sui, meme coins on Sui, meme coins and stables on ETH, meme coins and stables on Solana, Base. And this is to bring a much more tangible reward system than, that's ideally long-term going to be much more competitive than Amex Platinums or Chase Sapphire Reserve programs where the value layer over travel for high travelers has kind of gotten watered down. I mean, even if you have an Amex Platinum now, you get $200 a year, but it's limited to like one airline and only luggage. You do get the 5% back on travel, but I mean, our base levels are starting higher than that. So really what I'm trying to do now that we built the application layer is broaden the tech stack underneath it. That's going to continue to create a more dynamic experience for the customer. you know there the holy grail scenario is we build out our tech stack while at the same time monetizing our application layer to the point that we continue to do hotel rooms where if Expedia ever did acquire us, which as we scale in volume, that would be the most likely course, they would be in a position where they'd be buying the application layer and they would be adopting the infrastructure layer. So the goal that would be that as part of that, our applications, we would be the official payment provider for all of Expedia, all of our rewards program. You'd be in a position where you could create an Expedia account and you would earn the same crypto rewards as if you did the booking on TravelSwap. Our goal is to build the infrastructure and settlement layers that travel navigates on. My thesis is that as travel companies in these billion-dollar reward systems like Delta Sky Miles, Hilton, Marriott, right? These are billion-dollar rewards programs. I mean, having Delta without Delta Sky Miles, Delta doesn't do as good. Having Amex without Amex points don't do as good. So we know that these value systems, when the product works, are highly engaging and highly rewarding if you can kind of, it sounds stupid, but kind of create a travel flywheel, so to speak. And so the application layer gives us the ability and listen to our customers, kind of broaden the customer experience on the tech stack side, while at the same time, providing us an avenue for exits as well as growing. So what I was going to say is that my thesis is that Expedia, Booking.com, your favorite Hopper, all of them will take crypto in the next 3 to 5 years. And the second they do that, they'll be in a position where Joey's not going to want to pay in crypto and earn a Marriott point back. He's not going to want to. If he pays in a decentralized way, he's going to want to reward in a decentralized way. And that means that these companies will be stuck with two choices: build their entire infra, so build their own payment applications, build omnichain rewards, but build the settlement layers, or partner with companies that have already made it turnkey with the largest hotel company in the world, Expedia. And my guess is 50% are going to go the route of building it their own. And the other 50% are going to see what's already worked in the market and adopt it. And our goal is that that's TravelSwap, that, when these companies look at it, and that's where we become much bigger than just us executing and settling the transactions for TravelSwap, but also being able to natively do that. And that's where you begin to that's why you would have a chain, right? And you ask, who would those customers be? Oh, they would be every major travel company. Travel's niche. The rewards around travel are very niche. These rewards programs are too generic. They're trying to be one size fits all, but travel is not one size fits all. It's like it is a monster and the most competitive on the reward side with it. So
what's the background there? What's the history on travel rewards? Do we know how it's my entire life I've been aware of travel rewards. But it's nothing has changed. It's always been, for the most part, the same programs that we've known our entire adult lives.
They blew up their tokenomics model, right? Like SBG did a merger with Marriott points in 2015. Everybody got lost 50% value. It's as if they inflated, they just pumped 50% of supply. And then that merged a year and a half ago into Marriott, Bonvoy Key Cash, which is there. And they're just year over year, they tend to get watered down. The perks aren't as good. And I've talked to plenty of guys. And one of my good friends and a partner of the company he moved $4 million in Amex points by making a deposit off of his credit card onto a gambling site, making a delta neutral bet, pulling the money out and then paying off his card. And so he got banned from this poker site, or this degen site, because he ran $4 million in basically delta neutral bets to farm Amex points. So, but their biggest complaints are basically that, the more you use travel, the second you hit higher tiers, your perks basically stop, which is why everyone's like, well, I've maxed out my Marriott. I guess I'll stay at Hilton's now. And then I'll just make sure I do my minimum on my Amex. So they just gotten watered down over time.
This is true. This is true, actually. It's like even Delta now, because I'm a Delta guy. You know, and it's fine with me because I have the Delta Amex because it just earns me more, and I'm like, okay, cool. But like, it's basically like I'll be at platinum probably before fall, and then it's like I'm no longer incentivized to use my Delta card at that point. Because at that point, like, yeah, I could get more miles, so it's like I suppose I can, but like the reason I'm using the Delta card is to get to my status while getting the miles. And then after that, I'm like, okay, now we need to make sure our Marriott's maxed out. Cool, we got that there. Okay, now that's maxed out. All right, we're going back to my Fidelity card because that's earning me that cash back into my brokerage account. And it becomes this game where it's like I basically know roughly how long I need to use each card for major purchases. And then I sort of just water it down versus persistent rewards, kind of what you're talking about, which I think is an interesting thing. And the other thing I want to tell people is, you know, pay attention to how Eric is talking right now, because, you know, we have a lot of builders on the space, obviously, but the way he's talking about sort of the application layer versus sort of the technical and infrastructure layer, these are discussions that like a lot of times people don't get to this level of nuance. And I really geek out over this stuff because, you know, people will say to me, like, I had this conversation related to the technical layer of the blockchain recently when Iggy Azalea didn't know how gas worked and everyone freaked out. And I'm like, I didn't know how insurance and like personal injury insurance and freaking like North Carolina worked. Didn't mean I wasn't qualified to lead internal communications for an insurance company because I was on more of a different layer within the company. And similarly, I wrote an entire book on the application layer of the blockchain as it relates to the NFTs. I don't know every technical detail. And I think sometimes people on the technical layer try to make people on the application layer feel inferior. People on the application layer think that the people on the technical layer are just, you know, oh, well, you don't get how it works. You need to understand, you need to be able to have the smartest people possible who work on both, but understanding how they apply to business, I think is super important. And to the point of like doing the application layer right now in a way that works for Expedia, working on a technical layer that you build out along the way to potentially then have a tech stack on top of that. That then sort of creates sort of a like I think what you're doing, and tell me if I'm hearing this or I'm playing this back right. You're sort of giving yourself one, a sustainable business right now. We all see that that's building out. But two, at the same time, as you continue to grow, you're sort of giving yourself options to have different ways to work with all of these large companies or on your own in the future by building out both sides of that and by thinking about it that way, not just saying we're building one all-in project, one all-in product. We just want to get acquired and we're ready to sail off. No, we're giving ourselves as many bites of the apple as possible, understanding that some of these brands might want to build out their application layer. Some of them might want to build out their own technical layer. We're just going to say, get you a man's who can do you both. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, if you're like Eric, what's the exact experience you want somebody to have? The day I can create this experience, Travel Swap is a billion-dollar brand, and this is what that experience looks like. So right now, everyone, you know, Steve, you sound like a guy, you know how to get to base. You have a Phantom wallet. You might not have a Sui wallet, but you're smart enough. You know how to get one. You have a MetaMask, right? And you most likely, because of your experience, you have a bit of gas on each of these wallets. So if there are rewards to claim, somebody like you could go and do that. But let's take somebody like my father. My father uses Expedia, but if he were to use Expedia and he were to earn 4 or 5 different cryptocurrencies, and the process for him to claim each of them was to create 5 different wallets, buy gas on each of those wallets for the first time, to then go and claim, we call this building into a dead end, right? It's where you realize that your tech stack that you're building that is feature rich, it falls short in scalability. And so what needs to happen is my father needs some type of claim button or something that he clicks, and it rolls those assets to a settlement layer where then it can then be offboarded, and he doesn't need 5 different wallets with 5 different gas. And these are the challenges that, like, in order for us to really scale beyond just, you know, everyone here who knows how to use wallets and can, you know, obviously if I say, hey, just claim it off your Phantom wallet, you're like, duh, got it. Of course, right? You know, and then when you start doing that, you run into a whole bunch of other issues, right? Like, well, then you're talking about sponsored gas transactions. That would mean that if I wanted Steve to create an account on TravelSwap or Expedia, and earn crypto tokens and then be able to claim them without ever having gas. Well, if it's being done on a chain, the gas has to come from somewhere, right? And so usually that's why you build gas sponsored transactions where, if we had the infra layer, we could sponsor that transaction to roll those assets, and the user themselves would never know that all of that logic on the back end was happening on chain. The same way now, well, you don't know if the website you're visiting is hosted on Google servers or AWS servers, and you really shouldn't care, because as long as it functions the same way and as long as the user experience is like what you want and it's simple and it's intuitive, then it's fine. And so my biggest challenge here is not going to be us growing sales or user adoption. It's solving the technical challenges of these, really cool, okay, giving people different rewards across different chains is a really novel idea. The technology to scale that to the masses is a completely different challenge. So we solve these problems for ourselves, but we hope in doing so, we carve the path that we can make it plug and play to those that would also want to do that, and ideally have that be a monetized strategy if it makes sense.
Yeah, and before we go to, speaking of that, carving the path, before we go to Joey Vowels, this is something I'm very curious about, because you're talking about the sort of carving the path and sort of paving the way on something like this, which I think is really smart. To your point about the ease of use, it's one of the reasons I love a company like Magic Eden. I'm a Magic Eden ambassador. I got to test out their wallet before everybody else. I think I actually tweeted about it before I was supposed to. So I'm tweeting mobile wallet pictures when there actually was no announcement that anybody had the mobile wallet yet. Whoops, my bad. But at the same time, one of the things I liked about it was that I had someone at, Consensus who was like, I want to get, I want you to pay me for this in ETH. I don't want you to Venmo. I just wanted this in ETH. I didn't have any ETH in my, any sort of mobile wallet. I had the Magic Eden mobile wallet. I flipped my ETH to Bitcoin to ETH real quick from there. And that sort of swap in one wallet, people don't want to go to their Phantom wallet and then well, now I got to get my MetaMask pulled up and all these other things. What people want to do is say, the same way they do anything else, I want to hit two buttons and swap one to the other for this application if that's what I want to do. So that's why I like that. But to your point about claiming, it needs to be simple in one place. But you talk about paving the way a little bit, and I do have a question related to that, which is this is obviously a tricky environment from a regulatory perspective and how this is governed and all that. What does that situation look like for someone like you as you navigate it, sort of the regulatory environment or the concerns with sort of how does that look from a crypto perspective to you in such a large, regulated industry? How do you handle that, or what does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So we got our institutional API access and license approvals 4 months before FTX collapsed. So the regulatory process for applying and getting, the ability to sell into Gemini's order books as a market maker is on the institutional API is a tough one to get to. We're going through due diligence now with crypto.com. And they have, as part of that, they asked for 5 years of historical reservations on our business. They asked for a walkthrough on, how do you plan to use this? And we explained to them that, well, a user selects a hotel and there's a price associated with it, and we need to query in real time the US dollar price or Canadian price or whatever that person's local currency is into whatever crypto they want to pay, and build out all that logic and have it so that obviously if I was charging Steve $1,000, that I get $1,000 and I don't get $990. And so with that, we operate kind of under a limited kind of use license with Gemini, and we have that specific to travel. I have quite a few people that have come to me and say, Eric, why don't you license off TravelSwap's payment stack as its own company, right? And then Rook could sell hats with it. Anyone could sell any product using the method of price querying at checkout and everything else. The second you do that, though, you need something called an MTL license. It's a money transmitter license, and this is issued state by state. They're about $400,000 to $500,000 to get, and each state has their own process. So it would require, to scale some avenues. We can't, because we turn the page on who we are. We go from being a travel company to a money transmitter, and that's a fine line you don't want to walk really. But within the confines of like operating, I mean, there's just some pretty clear like do's and don'ts that are, I would say, like best practices. And we have a like having, just to give you an idea, I was prosecuted by the state of Nevada for building the largest illegal vacation rental management company in the state of Nevada. And it wasn't because I meant to do that. It was because
Kind
at
of a
the
flex, I
time,
think. It's kind of a flex.
Yeah, that's kind of
yeah,
sick.
at the time, the city was saying, hey, you're a property manager. And then the Resorts Association was saying, you're a hotel operator. And to legally be a hotel operator and the requirements is completely different legally than being a property manager. Property managers have to be under the real estate division. Hotel operators have to be under the Resorts Association. And it's impossible to be both. And because nobody set laws and the laws were always changing, I kind of ate the bullet. But out of that came, hey, Airbnb integrated with the city. They standardized the licensing process. So I'm used to being early. I'm used to being like operating with as much integrity. And so that I always say, like, we try and be the gold standard of compliance, right? Even if you are operating a gray area, try and do it as transparently as possible with as much integrity, so that if and when, like when the state of Nevada came after me and they're like, you're doing all this stuff, I said, no, 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 no. I do have 46 of these houses, yes, and none of them are licensed. But it's not because I was trying to hide from you. It's because you don't have a process that actually makes sense for me to be in compliance. And that ends up having to go into a courtroom. And until it does, people don't get answers to that. And that stuff takes time, right? You see now cases always going through and different things. And so I try and focus on the things we can do, things where we can make an impact, making sure that we do it with as close as to like, within regulatory framework as we understand it. And yeah, I mean, that's part of being early, like it's being there when like the waves are a bit tumultuous, kind of.
Yeah, these are the types of conversations I love, by the way. Like, I geek out over this conversation because, like, what I like about this is like a lot of times we talk straight nuts and bolts and people are sort of giving talking points about their product and talking about the background there. I love getting deep into the weeds of like what it's like to be on the front lines of this stuff and talking about, the challenges associated with it. And, like it seems, as somebody like yourself who's been on sort of the forefront of a lot of these different things, and you're interested in being on the cutting edge because there are advantages that come on with the cutting edge along with those risks. And I think inherently higher risk tolerance living in this space, of course, you have, and you're willing to do that. I don't know why I said that like Yoda, higher risk tolerance you have. But speaking of Yoda, Joey Vowles, big Star Wars fan. Want to get Joey Vowles in here because I know his hand flew up and he loves this sort of stuff too. He's working on some real applications of the blockchain. So Joey Vowles, get in here. Feel free to ask anything you want.
Yeah, thank you. I apologize. I've been listening on and off because I've been trying to multitask, and then I had a question, and then my dad called, and then I guess you'd kind of answered it a little bit previously, like right now, like you had kind of answered it. And I, my question is, do you, with what you're building and this platform, do you envision maybe being able to license or, you know, uh, sell the tech maybe? Like what can you see this working with outside of just what you're doing for travel?
Yeah. So what would be licensed potentially would be the payment stack underneath it, right? Where the ability for, say, I'm not familiar with what you're building, Joy, but say you wanted a person to sign up for a subscription, or say you wanted them to buy X product or whatever it was. However, they, theoretically, if I white labeled my tech stack, I could build it into an SDK or an API for you. You could then at that checkout payment screen have the same exact fields that are on Travel Swap, and we would be essentially the issue with that is we then become a money transmitter, and I'm not interested in doing that. And it's millions of dollars to even get out the gate, tens of millions, probably 45 to 55 million dollars. So it's on that side we can't. We do I mean, we're partnered with Token 2049. We partner with Pudgies. We partner with a lot of different projects and protocols where they're able to white label our platform. And when revenue comes through them, they make a portion of it. So to give you an idea, Token 2049 is a very large conference, usually around 15,000 attendees. Based on our agreements with them, they stand to make, based on booking volumes, potentially several hundreds of thousands of dollars in commissions. And so we try and, as I say, create milk and cookie scenarios where, like, if somebody's selling a ticket, odds are they need to go to a hotel with it, right? Just like when you eat a cookie, odds are you'd love a glass of milk with it too if it was like there as an option. And so on our B2B side, we've potentially explored like self-deployment where like somebody could go to Travel Swap, potentially, look through our SDK, spin up their own travel agency underneath Travel Swap. We've built some tools kind of around that to be able to be like, have people like self service themselves around it. But I need to build out our product tech still around that to feel more comfortable. Right now, we're adding flights, and then most likely by end of August or September, we'll have VRBO integrated into the platform. They're owned by Expedia. A lot of people forgot that Expedia acquired VRBO, who's the largest competitor to Airbnb. And most people who list on Airbnb also list on VRBO. I'm telling you, because we did it. You can't just fill your rooms just on Airbnb. It hasn't been that way in forever. And so that means that like now you would be able to be in a position where you could book any hotel globally, any flight globally, and any vacation rental globally without ever having to offboard. I can see ourselves once we deliver that and kind of phase one our rewards protocol, then we kind of have this bundled application that we could explore, allowing people to self spin up on or expanding our enterprise white label solutions, kind of et cetera, around that. So I don't know if that kind of answers your question or not.
Yeah, for sure. And then you mentioned the rewards, and that's something, Steve has talked about a lot on here is, I wish there was a way my Delta miles, my United miles, my Marriott points, right, like all this stuff would work together. And we saw a company actually on Shark Tank a few years back that they basically the idea of their company, I think Mark Cuban might have invested in them, was they were like a points aggregator. So they had a system set up where you would connect all of your different cards, and it would look at your points, and they had this tech where because what people don't know is you can actually buy and exchange points sometimes. So you can like sell your United points to Sky Air France, but you only get like 80% of the points or something like that or whatever, right? And you have to know when it's available. And so they had set up this website that allowed you to do this, where you could exchange points and combine and whatever. So like is what you're doing, if I come onto the site and I'm a United person, right? And I buy a flight and it's on United, am I still able to get my United points while still earning Travel Swap credits and et cetera, et cetera? Or is your thought process like, we're just going to create our own reward system that transcends each
Both.
individual, like, and you won't even need those anymore?
So I would love to have that. So I'm right now, we are finalizing, there's a UI implementation through Expedia and Marriott that very shortly will allow you, when you book a Marriott hotel through Travel Swap, you'll be able to still get your Marriott points. That's up to the brand itself. We are always, if the brand will allow us to pass through your Marriott number and your United number and give you points off of it, that's great. They just, as brands, started doing that about a year ago, opening that up. Marriott's one of the first, which is pretty cool. But on top of that, yes, we'll have our own reward system. At the end of the day, hotels sell rooms one of two ways: either through a partner, i.e., me, we're called channel, or they sell it direct, which means Joey goes and to the hotel directly and buys it. And so traditionally they would try and gate giving you those Marriott points only if you bought it through them directly, because they don't like paying guys like me a commission to sell their hotel rooms, right? As much as that's the case, right? Like agents always get the bad end of this, for that, even though we bring the business. But a lot of brands are now changing for that. But irregardless of that, the way things are going to work is you're actually going to, the level progression system we're working on is pretty simple. X amount of, volume and bookings equals X points, each X points equal X levels. We have gotten grants from all of these major protocols. Some of those grants are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars now, and our algorithm is going to reward based on token quantity. And this is pretty cool, because what that means is that, say you book your hotel for token 2049 Singapore. Well, that's not till September. So you're going to get allocated, these 5 different tokens, and you're going to be able to see them, but you won't be able to claim them till after you check out, for obvious reasons, right? Otherwise, people would just cancel book, right? Like you'd have Captain doing some funny BS stuff, like he already said, right? Like people would figure out a way around it. And rewards are never issued prior to booking completion. That's pretty standard on any travel site. So the cool thing would be is, what if, you earned MOG, but when you earned MOG, it was at 20 million. And by the time you could claim it, it was at 200 million. There's some cool things with crypto where you could potentially be earning more, back than you potentially paid sometimes. But at the minimum, and my goal, if I shit the bed on the rewards, is at least to provide more cash back, ideally double than Amex Platinum and these things do. And there's a ton of tangibility and that we're building around our point system, our reward system, just because we've looked a lot on, like I've studied Blast. We've looked at how everyone has, basically gamified progression, and then how they have gated value behind that level progression mechanically. I'm a big classic WoW guy, Joey. So the process you just told me was like when I used to buy Chinese gold from a website, right? And then they would drop it in my mailbox, and then I would have it, instead of, in a perfect world, right, I would just be able to go to the open market and be able to buy these things. The biggest difference is, if you start putting things on chain, you can track them, and there's a level of transparency we don't know how many Amex points there are in the world. I don't even know if it's published. And so the idea that you could pass back these highly valuable rewards that are liquid, and also are kind of cross-pollinate and bring you exposure to potentially tokens you would have never seen of or heard of, right? The odds of getting a Bitcoin whale who spends 15 grand on our platform booking a trip to go to Solana and check out a token, slim to none. If he earned a little bit of that token as part of booking that trip, then that would be the perfect type of person that you would want to bring exposure to that, right? Because it's somebody who spent money, it's somebody who has money. We're back into sales, right? A qualified client, right? And so TravelSwap tries to be a really good partner and cross ecosystem pollinator with the coins that we've partnered with, which is why we're selected when we meet with the teams. But another note too, I'm highly aware of in real life perks and benefits. So we're working and negotiating with Chase Sapphire Reserve and Priority Key or Priority Pass. So that way, we'll be able to bring a membership to TravelSwap that includes lounge access globally, 1,500 plus lounges across the US. We're working on a hybrid insurance policy that when you book a flight here with TravelSwap, if it has a published delay of more than 35 minutes, it'll auto send everybody on the itinerary a food and beverage credit worth $35. And so there's the reward side is one, there's the financial side, and then there's the traditional perks that travelers right? I don't want to sit by the gateway if I don't have to. I'd rather sit in a lounge. It's going to be much quieter, and there probably won't be screaming kids. Not to hate on kids, but when you're tired, the last thing you want is piercing screams through the night. So
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate the thought process that goes into it. And your point on the rewards programs is, I honestly see a world where if somebody, starts using your your technology layer, or say, let's say they use your technology layer and they're just sort of white labeling it. then it's just going to go straight to your rewards points anyway. And, you can figure it out. And then I think it'll turn into normal travel behavior, right? Like where if I'm trying to deal shop, I want to go to Travel Swap is going to get me the best deals and let me pay with crypto. If I just want to pay with crypto and stay within my normal sort of, I'm a Delta Maxi or I'm a Marriott Maxi, well, I'm going to be able to do that too. But again, the point of what you're saying, I mean, the perfect example, it's Ape Fest. I mean, like Ape Fest is in Lisbon. And I'm going to burn a ton of miles because I, want to be somewhat well-rested and going to things. So I'm going to probably not fly economy. I don't know if I'm going to fly full-on layout and get a friggin' bed because that shit's really expensive. But it's like my propensity, it's funny how you said you don't want to upcharge people. My propensity to spend more money in crypto is significantly higher to me than it is if I am just, I don't know why. I don't know if it's because it's the way I earned it or whatever, but like I'm probably more likely to get that little upgrade in a crypto spend than I am in a dollar spend. I don't know why. It's just how I am. And maybe it's part of what you said about me thinking about spending more money. I'm like, well, if I'm pulling out my crypto, then I need to swap it, send it from my MetaMask to Coinbase, make sure I get all the numbers right, or else I could lose thousands of dollars in a transaction. Then I need to transfer it to my bank. And that's going to take another like 6 days till it gets there, or 4 days till it gets there. And then I can then pay it off my credit card, which I'm then using for that, versus me just saying, you know what? I'm going to sell this, one of my little pudgies and grab myself a nicer trip to Ape Fest and treat myself because I've worked hard. And so like, I think there's like a mental shift there. I think there's an ease of use there. I think there's an instantaneous ability to use different types of currency there. And it just seems to make sense. So I guess like that said, I know we're at like, 10 after the...
I
Oh, go ahead,
want
Eric.
to hop in one thing you're saying. So you touched base on like, I understand. So a few of our competitors have built the business around, hey, we offer crypto. It's a convenience. The market will accept, raising the rates a little bit because of the convenience. It's a bad sales strategy because if I'm coming into the market and I see that like my core competitor is Travala, right? They are the biggest dog in town. They do $60 million a year. I'm coming for their head. They were bootstrapped with Binance. They mark up their flights. I know exactly how much they mark it up. That gives me a competitive edge. They're overweighted and bloated. I can come in, undercut them on an operating leanly basis, and vampire attack all of it. So if you build business and revenue shares off of inflated prices because you can off of convenience, eventually a competitor is going to come in and say, well, hell, these guys are kind of gouging these customers. I could just do it. Like we passed through the lowest rate with Expedia. We still make, 15% on that hotel room. I don't need to mark up an additional 10% because Steve, I'm giving you the convenience of paying in crypto. I'd rather the convenience of paying in crypto gets you the next highest, best room. That's still the lowest cost room. Right. And so I'm wary of like building revenue schemes that maybe we have to scale down. And as you know, if you're making 5% on a product and then in a year you have to scale that product back down 5%, that number hurts if you've built payroll operations and everything else off of that. So it's just why I evaluate others for doing it, and we could make enough without getting them for that little extra, So
You're not doing the old fashioned, sell a $27 hoodie for $127 move that we're used to, right?
No, and it's because the only reason that works on the hoodie side is you can't price compare it. But considering everybody has 3 travel sites, they know by default that they price check against, it'll never work, right? The consumer that like it won't scale. So, but yeah, I'm happy to answer any other questions. I appreciate, we're running over a little bit here, everyone, listening. I'm happy to answer any other questions, but yeah, it's been a journey, man.
No, this is awesome. And first of all, I'm proud as fuck of you because it's really cool because I know your journey as deep or deeper than many people from many calls and have always like looked at you and said, here's a person who wants to build real products. Here's a person who wants to build real things in the space. Here's a person who has actual business experience. Here's a person who has actual business connections. And so, seeing that to where this has been a really cool journey because I think we all go into these journeys in Web3 and we all have these different paths, but it's really cool when you see the people who they kept swimming down the current and they eventually made it upstream. And, obviously there's, jobs not finished, a lot of work to do for all of us, right? But like the idea that, you continue to swim upstream and you continue to get there, and then to see you thriving the way I've been seeing it on the timeline is fucking awesome. So congratulations on that. And obviously business wise, but seeing it recognized in the timeline is really cool to me, number one. Number two, I'm sure we'll have you back on again more than once, because I think anytime we have a significant thing, like maybe back right before Ape Fest, if people are booking any last minute travel, or if there's a best time to book travel in the months in advance, we should have that conversation so people start to do that. I guess for people like who have been interested in the conversation, they're getting excited, they want to start using it. I believe Von Frunton in the War Room said he booked all of his Ape Fest travel through Travel Swap. Where do they go? What do they do? What are the next steps? How should someone start booking travel on Travel Swap tomorrow? Uh-oh, did I lose Eric? Did he not unmute? Or did we lose me?
Oh, I'm retarded. I didn't mute. Sorry if I can't say that word. My bad. But yeah, travelswap.xyz. You can, search directly in there. We're also we have a partnership with Board Travel, which is through Carson, and trying to build some exclusive perks for apes and different things. So, you can, support your local apes by booking through that custom landing page where, he's actually going to be helping us work through some ApeCoin DAO applications to ideally integrate ApeCoin as part of our omni-chain reward stack. So, that's how I would do it. We don't have flights yet. I don't know when Lisbon is potentially there. If you ask for best practices, try and book your travel 30, 45 days out. All you crypto degens like to wait till the last week, and that's really cool. But you pay more, but I guess if it's magic internet money, like Steve said, it really doesn't matter, right? They want to keep it in the casino for as long as possible. Try and run up another 10x. But yeah, you guys, I'm a pretty transparent founder. We have teams, always online. If you ever, you'll see people tag me on comment posts all the time to bring attention, and I'm almost on it within a minute. So if there's ever any questions, let me know. We have a full 24/7 support team. But all in all, we're a small team. We bootstrapped ourselves and built all of this. We're not. What makes us competitive is, mobility and the fact that, we're just all chronically online 24/7. But as I said, thanks so much for having me on, travelswap.xyz. It's in my bio as well. If there's any questions, concerns, just feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to answer it as well.
Love that. Well, look, good conversation, I think, this morning, Cap, regarding travel, regarding some influencer, reaching out to sort of the celebrity stuff that's been coming into play. And of course, hit on the Moonbird stuff a little bit. We'll be curious to see what they go from there. But I love these sorts of conversations. I love being able to just talk actual business and shop. I think I was, having a conversation with one of your favorite people, Cap, Josh Brabowski, in a group chat, and actually talking about the fact that I think we'll agree on this. It is cool to see some real businesses starting to flex out, and the things that are a little more vaporware, not necessarily getting flexed out as hard. Even in the meme coin streets, where Iggy Azalea is working to actually do some work on her coin versus just saying, "I released a meme coin, I'm so fancy." So love seeing stuff like this. Love seeing people get their due. And I don't know, Cap, any parting thoughts before we close this sucker down?
It really is an interesting time where agree with everything you just said. And it's also happening simultaneously to, what's frustrating Riggs this morning, and the nonsense on the timeline and stuff it's like, it feels as if we're moving backwards as a space and forward at the exact same time.
Yeah, it's kind of like I said, we talked about this a couple of months ago when we started to say, you know what? It feels like we're starting to see this separation between, businesses and, meme coins. And that's okay. It's okay to play in both spaces. And I love seeing that both of these things are happening. So, look, that said, great conversation. Oh, go ahead, Cap.
Question in the chat from Micro, if Eric can answer. Just curious if you could share if you have any plans or what you do as it relates to data collection.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, absolutely. So Travel Swap doesn't institute any cookies or anything. We don't track location or anything like that. And any information you really do enter is entered into just security API. So I don't hold I don't hold any passport information. I don't hold any identifying information besides And even I don't hold any of that personally. It goes directly through into the Expedia API, and then pass through to the hotel, where obviously you check in as part of that. But as a general rule of thumb, I have tried to make our site as light and non-invasive as possible, right? I'm not interested in farming data. It's the same reason we don't incentivize account creation. It's the same reason you can make a booking on TravelSwap without even creating an account, because I don't want to have to even gate that. My goal is literally to make it so simple for Captain to go to TravelSwap and not have to worry about all this other stuff and just book a hotel. So minimal, if yeah.
Love it. No, I love the data protection, and it's just honestly like it comes down to like just finding a market failure and improving it, which is what a new business is supposed to do. It solves for a market failure that exists, that will continue to exist as it grows, and being on the front lines of this thing. Like, don't be surprised if TravelSwap is a $1 billion company in a few years, and they were like, oh, like in 5 years when everyone's using crypto, and you're like, wow, TravelSwap, $1 billion company, they're new to the scene. It's like, no, they've been around for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. It's just they've been building through it. You see that often where it's like even Uber was an interesting one where it was like, Uber was around 3-4 years before it was really on people's radars when they were using it.
Magic Eden is prime example. OpenSea sleeping on ordinals allowed Magic Eden to capitalize on that and bring them up to and take over a giant that had pretty much run the space since forever. If you were there during the Bored Ape Mint telling people how Magic Eden was going to overturn OS, you'd be laughed out of the building, right?
Yeah,
and that's all it takes.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to just step on you there. I was going to say, yeah, it's like it takes like that little bit, and we talked about it even the other day on the show, where it's like, people use the Blockbuster example, but there are so many examples over time of large businesses, that BlackBerry and all these other large businesses that were never going to get overtaken. They were Yahoo, too big to fail, never going to happen. And then you start to see what happens with a lot of these large scale businesses that ultimately end up crashing and burning because they didn't innovate or they weren't paying attention to what's coming. And I really do think, and again, we'll see what happens. Obviously, nothing on this show is ever financial advice, as we always say, but man, I think, Cap made the comment of any new business coming out right now needs to have a Web3 strategy because that's where the puck is going. And I think just like you need to have a social media strategy 20 years ago and you need to have a web strategy 25 years ago, like it is going to be important. Or I would say social media strategy 10 to 15 years ago, 20 to 25, you needed a web strategy. This is how you get out in front and future proof. Does it guarantee success? No, but it means that you have an opportunity and it means that you're putting yourself in the best position because again, when you look at, Ethereum's market cap, you might say, wow, that's super high. Even if it gets as high as Bitcoin, it only is going to 3-4x from here. But also, if this becomes the base layer of the internet, it might be pretty low, right? And so it's like, you just need to be paying attention to the next layer and the next generation of the internet is being built in front of our eyes. And there's an opportunity. So don't let it slip you by and pay attention to it. Good conversation again. That said, we will let everybody sail off into their day. Thanks for jumping by this morning. We will talk to everybody bright and early tomorrow morning for a nice Friday, I'm sure, shenanigan-filled show. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, everybody.
This episode is brought to you by DGen Network, the only community-based Web3 media network, bringing you the very best content in the NFT and cryptocurrency space. Please visit dgen.network and check out our other great shows. That's DGen, DGEN.network.
Welcome to the future.